Live.
How we need?
Yeah, that's all. It's another 100,000.
Yes. Certain ways.
30.
Good evening, everyone. This meeting is being held in accordance with the public laws of 1975, chapter 231, and adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a notice sent to the Asbury Park Press, October Times, and the Star Ledger, and posted in the main lobby of the municipal building and on the municipal website. OPMA authorizes municipalities to conduct public meetings through use of streaming services and other online meeting platforms. The Red Bank Council is meeting in person as well as providing an option for the public to participate via Zoom video meetings. Please note that the option to attend is being provided as a courtesy. Therefore, if Zoom becomes unavailable during the meeting and it cannot be quickly fixed, council will continue with the remainder of the meeting. For those joining us via Zoom, please raise your hand during designated times to be recognized for a comment. Whether you are appearing in person or via Zoom, you must provide your name to be recognized. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Laura.
Councilmember Bonatakis? Here. Councilmember Cassidy?
Present.
Councilmember Tracy Blackwood? Here. Councilmember Forrest?
Present.
Councilmember Janone?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Trigiano?
Here.
Mayor Portman?
Here.
We have quorum.
Okay, thank you. A whole bunch of proclamations. 'Tis the season, so let's get to it. First up, we have a proclamation for Building Safety Month. Whereas our borough is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and essential role our homes, buildings, and infrastructure play, both in everyday life and when disasters strike. And whereas our confidence in the resilience of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, plumbers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas these guardians are dedicated members of the International Code Council, a nonprofit that brings together local, state, territorial, tribal, and federal officials who are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, and play. And whereas these modern building codes include safeguards to protect the public from hazards such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildland fires, floods, and earthquakes. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largely unknown protectors of public safety, our local code officials, who assure us of safe, sustainable, and affordable buildings that are essential to our prosperity. And whereas Mission Possible, the theme for Building Safety Month 2024, encourages all of us to raise awareness about building safety on a personal, local, and global scale. And whereas each year in observance of Building Safety Month, people all over the world are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety, resilience, and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now, therefore, I, William Portman, Mayor of the Borough of Red Bank, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2024 as Building Safety Month. Accordingly, I encourage our citizens to join us as we participate in Building Safety Month activities. I think we have Tony, are you here? Yeah, here's the head of our building department. Officer.
Here, thank you. Thank you. Here, wait, hold on.
Photo.
Me? Look at me. Look at me. Okay. Thank you very much.
Members of the council, thank you for your support, everybody, building department, and I think making Red Bank one of the safest communities in Monmouth County. We try to do the best job we can, and with your help, we'll continue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
No.
Okay, next up, we have National Public Works Week proclamation for May 19th to the 25th, 2024, advancing quality of life for all. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the borough of Red Bank. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals, who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Red Bank to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2024 marks the 64th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Therefore, be it resolved, I, William Portman, Mayor of the Borough of Red Bank, do hereby designate the week of May 19th to the 25th, 2024 as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all. And Terrence Walton, our DPW Director, is here. Looking sharp, Terrence.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at him.
Good on.
Right now.
Uh-oh.
We're the timeline photographers.
Right. Thank you, Mayor and Council. On behalf of Public Works Department, I'd just like to extend our heartfelt appreciation for all that you're doing. And we just thank you. And I want to say that without the men and women of Public Works, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing. We continue to want to serve the residents of the community. And it's also a pleasure to actually serve in the community where you were raised. So, which I'm a resident of. So thank you very much.
Yeah, we got to thank you.
Please. Thank you.
That's work.
Laura, she was.
It's gonna be good.
Let's skip that just in case it's. Okay. Proclamation celebrating Older Americans Month 2024. Whereas May is Older Americans Month, a time for us to recognize and honor Red Bank older adults and their immense influence on every facet of American society. And whereas through their wealth of life experience and wisdom, older adults guide our younger generations and carry forward abundant cultural and historical knowledge. And whereas older Americans improve our communities through intergenerational relationships, community service, civic engagement, and many other activities. And whereas communities benefit when people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds have the opportunity to participate and live independently. And whereas the Borough of Red Bank must ensure that older Americans have the resources and support needed to stay involved in their communities, reflecting our commitment to inclusivity and connectedness. And now, therefore, I, Mayor William Portman of the Borough of Red Bank in Monmouth County, do hereby proclaim May 2024 as Older Americans Month. This year's theme, Powered by Connection, emphasized the profound impact of meaningful interactions and social connection on the well-being and health of older adults in our community. I further call upon all residents to join me in recognizing the contributions of our older citizens and promoting programs and activities that foster connection, inclusion, and support for older adults. Steve, you want to present this one on behalf of? Yeah, you're gonna.
Jazz appreciation month.
Oh, where is he?
Come back.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah. Oh, Tony went like this one too. I think according to the AARP, I can accept it.
I can accept
At this point, yeah.
Clary's giving the business over here.
Okay, Gracie here, yeah. Put that one away. Proclamation for the Student Environmental Advocates and Leaders Program, the SEAL program. Whereas the SEAL program offers eligible high school students a unique leadership learning experience focused on local environmental issues. SEAL students collaborate with peers across Monmouth County through bi-monthly group training sessions to learn the basics of community, grassroots activism and advocacy, and how it can be achieved in their own schools, communities. And whereas topics presented in the training sessions featuring experts in that field include, but are not limited to, civics and the voting system, environmental justice, water quality, environmental careers, recycling crisis, and watershed mindfulness. And whereas students make connections from the lessons to their local communities and learn to make real change through problem-based learning. In addition, guest speakers including elected officials, advocates, and activists speak to the students to discuss successful strategies and campaigns to add real-world context to the learning. And whereas SEAL students identify an environmental issue of concern in their communities, they develop and implement projects to engage their communities in solving this environmental issue. They work on outreach and communication and learn how to overcome hurdles and roadblocks, depending on existing connections and forming new connections from members of their community to their fellow SEAL student peers. SEAL students enhance their leadership skills by seeing a project all the way through and end the program with something to show for their hard work and commitment. And whereas the Monmouth County SEAL program is 37 students strong, and among them is Red Bank's own Samantha Flores Castillo, the only SEAL student to be part of the initiative for 3 years. And whereas Samantha worked alongside the Red Bank Environmental Commission to champion the newly enacted legislation, Skip the Stuff, an ordinance to reduce the amount of single-use items for delivery and takeout items in Red Bank. And now, therefore, I, William Portman, Mayor of the Borough of Red Bank, on behalf of a proud council and community, do hereby acknowledge and applaud the Student Environmental Advocates and Leaders Program for their efforts to protect waterways using science, law, research, education, and citizen action.
Mayor, so I had the pleasure of attending the SEAL graduation earlier at 5:30, and then I came over here. So the proclamation was presented to the student and to the SEAL program just a little over an hour ago. But Nancy, if you want to speak to what Samantha did with the Skip the Stuff on Shrewsbury Ave.
Sure, I'll be happy to speak.
On that. Samantha has been involved with us, the Environmental Commission, for 3 years. So she's organized cleanups around town. She has helped us with educating businesses about our plastic film recycling program. And this year, she assisted the Environmental Commission with education on the Skip the Stuff ordinance that has recently passed. She's very easy to work with. She's pretty quiet, but she does care very much about the environment. So thank you. Congratulations, Samantha. I'm sorry I couldn't go to your graduation ceremony from SEAL, but I'll see you around town. Thanks.
Yeah, and she interpreted for all the businesses on Shrewsbury Avenue about the new legislation, making sure there was proper community outreach and, people knew the changes that were coming. So she is the only student to have been in the program for 3 years, so they're very proud of her. And regionally, she is making Red Bank extremely proud. It's a very good program. So thank you for the proclamation, Mayor.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Next up is proclamation for Garden for Wildlife Month. Whereas the Borough of Red Bank recognizes that wildlife species are declining at an unprecedented rate. Globally, there are over 1 million species endangered with extinction, and 1/3 of North American wildlife species are at an increased risk of extinction in the coming decades. And whereas the Borough of Red Bank recognizes that human health ultimately depends on well-functioning ecosystems and that biodiverse regions can better support food production, healthy soil and air quality, and can foster healthy connections between humans and wildlife. And whereas the Borough of Red Bank is working to build a healthy, sustainable, and wildlife-friendly community that brings the many benefits of nature to all corners of our community. And whereas Garden for Wildlife Month is a national initiative of the National Wildlife Federation that empowers Americans to support local valuable wildlife like birds and pollinators by planting native plants in their garden and throughout the community to help restore and connect habitat. And whereas the Borough of Red Bank supports and promotes Garden for Wildlife Month throughout the community and encourages residents to participate, including certifying and maintaining their properties as a certified wildlife habitat with the National Wildlife Federation. And whereas the Borough of Red Bank will continue to support local efforts that protect, restore, and conserve habitat and vital environmental resources, as well as foster a greater connection between residents and wildlife. Now, therefore, I, William Portman, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the Borough of Red Bank, to hereby proclaim May as Garden for Wildlife Month in the Borough of Red Bank and encourage all residents to plant native plants and participate in community activities that support and celebrate healthy, sustainable, wildlife-friendly communities.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
The Environmental Commission, thanks.
We have two more. I'm wondering if they went out on the call. Laura said the radios were going off, but we're gonna do EMS Week proclamation. Whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service, and whereas the members of emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas emergency medical services has grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventative medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine. And whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the members of emergency medical services teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical services providers by designating the Emergency Medical Services Week. Now, therefore, I, William Portman, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim the week of May 19th through the 25th, 2024 as Emergency Medical Services Week. The 50th anniversary of EMS Week theme is EMS Week, honoring our past, forging our future. I encourage the community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. And finally, thought Captain Breezy would be here to accept, but alas, he is not. It is National Police Week, May 12th through the 18th, 2024. To recognize National Police Week 2024 and to honor the service and sacrifice of those law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities and safeguarding our democracy. Whereas there are more than 800,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the Red Bank Police Department. And whereas there have been 43,649 assaults against law enforcement officers in 2021, resulting in approximately 15,369 injuries. And whereas since the first recorded death in 1786, more than 23,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and been killed in the line of duty. And whereas the names of these dedicated public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C., and 136 new names of fallen heroes are being added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial this spring. The service and sacrifice of all officers killed in the line of duty will be honored during the virtual National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund's 36th Annual Candlelight Vigil on the evening of May 13th, 2024. And whereas May 15th, 2024 is designated as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of all fallen officers and their families, and U.S. flags should be flown at half-staff. Now, therefore, I, William Portman, on behalf of the council and community, do hereby proclaim May 15th, 2024 as Peace Officers Memorial Day and May 13th through May 18th, 2024 as Police Week, and call upon all citizens to remember that peace officers who have given their last full measure of devotion in the line of duty and direct that the flag be flown at half-staff on Peace Officers Memorial Day. Thank you.
Well, Mayor, I just wanted to recognize Patrolman Darren McConnell Jr., who's representing Red Bank in the Police Unity Tour. He's riding on a bicycle with other members of the police community over 300 miles down to Washington DC. It's something that the police departments around the country do every year for that candlelight vigil, and just wanted to recognize and congratulate him for doing it.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, next up, we have a presentation from Ingenuity on our lead service line replacement project. Yeah, Jacqueline, you want to come on up and let us know where we stand?
Presentation.
Just
Presentation. I'm realizing how small the screen is, so I apologize. I should have brought one for each of you to be able to flip.
Okay, that's okay.
I didn't realize how small the screen was gonna be, so. So basically, we wanted to come here today because you are aware, we're just wrapping up the first phase of lead service line replacement plan, it's phase 1. And we want to talk to you about phase 2. And we want to make sure any questions you have regarding principal forgiveness, and we're going to throw around a bunch of terms. I'm going to be able to answer all of that for you to the mayor and council if anyone else has questions. So if you go to the next slide, we're going to first walk you through why we're doing this. In addition to it being very important, to replace lead service lines, it was also mandated. So today we're going to talk a bit about just the overview. We're going to start with that. And then we're going to get into the phase 1, just so you know where we're at with phase 1. It's wrapped up. Pretty much we're at 98%. We're going to have a punch list and a few more restorations, and then phase 1's done. And then we want to walk you through phase 2, so you have full understanding of everything. So if you go to the next slide, this is really the overview. It's small, but in July of 2021, you may recall, we had to do a lead service line replacement. And Ingenuity work, I saw Terrence is here. We worked with your DPW. We worked with DPU, Bobby Holiday. We went through all of your tap cards and we identified all of the unknown lead and copper services within the borough. And we itemized that in an inventory. Recall, we had to put together a plan on how the borough was going to, one, figure out overall how many lead services they had throughout the borough. But secondly, how they were going to replace them at least 10% a year of those known lead up until 2030. That was what was required by the state. Every municipality in New Jersey had to do that, and they had to submit a plan. What Red Bank did was Red Bank went right after that plan and made sure that they immediately went after iBank funding to start phase 1. That was very important because what's coming up next in October of 2024. So as you know, you had to send letters, certified letters to any known property that had lead. So when we went through all those tab cards, if it said lead, those properties got a certified letter saying that you have a lead service line. And you can only imagine if you were one of those people that got that letter, like you're wondering what's next, right? Those letters were based on tab cards, some of which, if you had come to our offices at DPU and looked at the tab cards, some of these tab cards were 100 years old. So it may have said lead, but it's possible that you replaced that service in the last 100 years, and perhaps the borough's records, maybe someone did it without a permit, who knows? But just because it said lead, we need to verify whether or not you actually have lead. And someone didn't come in and replace that copper service and you have. But all of those properties got letters. So by 2024, of October of 2024, in addition to the known lead, you have to send certified letters to anything that's unknown. So what the borough wanted to do was get ahead of that and test pit the entire borough so that you didn't send people with unknown letter and cause that stress of maybe I have a lead service line. It was more important to this borough that you, whether or not each resident or business had a lead service line. So that was where we started. So that gets us through the first few bullets. The first bullet talks about the overall plan. Second bullet talks about the federal lead and copper rule revisions that require you to notify even unknowns come on. Third bullet talks about what we already did. So in addition to that first plan, And the Tom Branch submitted that to the state as required last July, showing the progress during the. So all of those requirements that were set by the state, you've met every single one. You go to the next slide. Now we're in 2024. So now your updated lead service line inventory will be due this July, which will show the progress you've made, and you've made a ton of progress. So we're going to talk about that in a second. And your progress report to show this is how many lead service lines that were found, this is how many we replaced. And then we also updated all of your GIS. So in addition to just having the data on tap cards, what we did was we scanned every one of those tap cards, we uploaded it into GIS so that parents can now go in, click on a property, or Bobby Holiday can click on a property, and they know in real time what the service is. There's even a map showing where the service is located if that map existed in the record. So that's all been digitized for you as well. So come this August, so that lead service line replacement plan is due in July, just like it was last year, but it's going to be updated to show your progress. Come August, you'll have to send certified letters to any known lead scan, anyone that you identified that you haven't replaced yet, in addition to the ones that perhaps you identified and they haven't even been tested yet in certain cases. So that's who's going to get certified letters come this August. But come November, because in October, that the federal lead and copper rules come into play, you would have to send certified letters to anything that's still unknown. So that's why this phase 2 is really important. We want to minimize how many unknowns there are. We're going to try to test fit the rest of the borough before we hit that time frame where you would have to send letters. Now, we have to get approval for to go out to bid on phase 2 yet from DEP, but provided that that goes quickly, then we're going to push on the contract to try to do as many of those test fits as possible to minimize who gets letters for an unknown. The goal is to try to only send letters to those that have lead service lines that were identified. So this is where you're at as of May 2024. You have 1,999, roughly 2,000 that are still unknown. You have 1,419 non-lead, meaning that it's copper and other type of service. And you have 463 lead remaining. Wait till you see how many you've already replaced, which is substantial. For a total of 3,881. You go to the next slide. Under your phase 1, you replaced 345 lead service lines.
Let's go.
So I mean, that is impressive. You threw away the 10% that you were required to do. And as a result, that's what your inventory and your lead service line plan will show. In addition to that, so that's the good news. The challenge was you did 1,000 test pits and about 50% of them were lead. That's higher than anyone would have foreseen or guessed at. Any other municipalities. That's a high number. But you had the funding to replace those. And in fact, under that first loan, you were originally approved up to 8.8 million. Now, initially you started and said, well, we're going to do a phase 1 for 3.7 million. You passed the bond and you didn't initially intend to go to that 8. And after seeing the results of those test pits, we immediately went back to DEP and said, can we go back up to that full amount, that 8.8 that you originally approved us for? And DEP and the iBank program said yes. And any lead service lines that were in that first tract, that first census tract that weren't done, are going to immediately be done under this phase 2. So you can see, in addition to that, the original we awarded for the 2.6, we came to you for a change order to try to maximize under that first contract any lead service lines that you recall. And so basically Montana Construction went out and did 100 more partials in order, because only half of the line was lead and the other half was copper. So they went ahead and got ahead of that too. So basically everything we could do with the funding under that first contract up into the maximum change order amount has been done. So now it's time for phase 2. So we'll go into phase two now. Oh, before we go there, final restoration. We're about 98% complete with the final restoration. As you know, because Montana, I mean, they had until August to finish the project. They flew ahead and they worked very quickly, and they did the test pits quicker than August, but they did them over the winter. And you can't do concrete repair and you can't plant grass in the winter. So as soon as the weather broke in the spring, they had to catch up on all of those restorations, which I know caused a little bit of agita in the beginning because people see dirt in their front yard and want to know, well, why isn't that restored? It was the middle of the winter, so they had to wait till spring, and then they had to catch up and do all of those restorations. So they're about 98% complete on the restorations. There's a few areas of concrete replacement that still have to be done, plus punch list, and then that first contract. So if you go to the next slide. So this is the phase two program. So, you know, we talked a lot about census tracts and why would you divide it phase one, phase two? I'm gonna get into that and explain the formula that DEP and the iBank program follows to determine who gets 50% principal forgiveness and who just gets low interest loan, zero interest. We're gonna walk through all of that so that it makes sense. And it's actually pretty simple formula, and I have all the data here. If you wanted to ask any questions on the numbers, I have that as well. But basically, anything in that first census tract, 803,400, gets 50% principal forgiveness. So what that means is you get a loan, you don't have to pay back 50% of it. So you're getting half of that money as if it was a grant. So you're getting 50% principal forgiveness for anything you do in that census tract. So there's in that, because of how many lead service lines we found, there's still 152 full lead service line replacements and 48 partials that need to be replaced. The estimate on that's about 1.8 million. That's all in your phase two program. We're going to break that out in a proposal. There's going to be proposal A, proposal B in that bid so that the funding isn't mixed. So it's very clear anything on this bid sheet, you're getting 50%. That's going to make Tom's life a lot easier. And then anything on bid proposal B, you're not going to get 50% forgiveness on. That's basically anything in your other three census tracts. Okay. So proposal B, we're going to test pit the remaining 2,000 locations, which is the remainder of the borough. And then we built in about 75 water service replacements that are mainly for emergencies, because what happens is when you go to do that test pit, if it's lead, it's usually very old. And it doesn't always, per box doesn't always hold together. And sometimes you get a leaker. And if you get a leaker, you can't just go in and repair it. If you know it's lead, you kind of got to replace it, right? So you're not going to repair a lead service line replacement. It doesn't make sense to spend the money to repair something that you know you're going to come back and replace. So we have the 75 in there so that if we get a leaker, we're going to replace it. So that's what those 75 are. And then we'll come back for a phase three program and start planning for the remainder of the lead service lines that we identify in this phase two. And so that's pretty much, you know, on your bid proposal B, that's going to be in your phase two program. That's estimated about 2.5 million. Some of the tracks in there qualify for no interest portion. And we're going to go through that in a second, but the remainder are very low interest loan. Luckily, Tom's here. I didn't know Tom was going to be here, so he can answer all kinds of questions on
There you go, Tom.
percentage rates. Basically, it's a really good percentage. So if you go to the next slide, this will kind of explain the phase one, phase two, where those boundaries were. So as I mentioned, even though that pink location is your phase one, there are going to be in phase two, the remainder of the lead service lines that we found are going to be replaced. Okay, everybody follow me so far? Yep. So these are the census tracts, and I have the data here if you want any questions. I didn't want to put like median income levels for a whole, I didn't know if that could offend anybody. So basically, I can give you the numbers if you want them, but let's just say that the state median household income is 85,000. And if you were 80% of that, if the median of a census tract was 80% of that or less, you got 50% principal. If it was 60% of that or less, you got 75% forgiveness starting this fiscal year. The first census tract, the one that's green, when you do the calculation I'm gonna walk you through, was a 75. Okay, so you're basically below that 80%. It's, I can give you the numbers, on average, it's a low income tract. And there's other things too that the state looks at, in addition to looking, like when they're looking at principal forgiveness, it's really three things. They're looking at the median, not the mean would be the average, the median kind of takes away those two outliers and does the median on.
It's all coming back to me.
And then it looks at also unemployment rate, so, you know, for the state, it's 3.4. The unemployment rate in the county's 5, so it's actually higher, but in the borough, you're actually, with the exception of that one census tract, you're below the unemployment rate for the other 3 census tracts. On the EDIT phase 1, you're at 8.4. So, you know, all of it starts to make sense on why you got 50% principal forgiveness in that one location. And lastly, they look at population trends. So they look at the population trend of the state, which is 0.3% growth in population overall for the state. And then they look at those census tracts. So ironically, the other 3 census tracts, the population's decreasing, whereas the first tract, the one that was phase 1, is the only location where the population is increasing, and it's above the state average. So, you know, those are the metrics. All of that's GIS. It's all public information. You can go on GIS and you can look it up. But basically, that's how the state calculates. You know, it's a formula. It's not subjective on where you get principal forgiveness and everything. And so ultimately, you know, these are all state slides. This one here that gets into the affordability score, 65 or less versus 80 or less. So year 1, that phase 1 was in the 80 or less category, which is where you got your principal forgiveness. And that last one, which is where the remainder of your census tracts fall, is if you're under 100, which you had 1, then you did no interest. 75% of it's no interest loan. So you're still going to get better financing on the one census tract, and then the other 2, you're over 100%. You're doing better than the median of the state and those other 2 census tracts, in which case you're not going to get principal forgiveness and you're just going to get a low interest. And that's basically this slide, which is very small, just gives you that formula. And, you know, I have the numbers here if anyone wanted to see more data, but that's basically the program. So the plan is phase 2. Right now, we submitted it to DEP. And the iBank, they're reviewing the environmental report. They basically look and make sure that, you know, they look at flood hazard areas, they look at historic properties. And if there's any historic properties that we're going to test pit, they want to make sure that we follow the historic rules. You know, there's a bunch of back and forth on the environmental decision document. Then there'll be SED requirements on top of that they're also going to review. And then they'll authorize us to go out to bid. So that's where we are in the process. Jim Gant, Tom, myself, and our team had a meeting with DEP last week. It went very well. You know, asking if they could please review this quickly because the borough wants to go out to bid as soon as possible. They were excellent with the borough. They've been, I can't say enough good things about the iBank and DEP with Red Bank. They've been, you know, really attentive. And so that's where we're at. As soon as we get authorization to go out to bid, then the project's going to start.
Couple of questions, and thank you. Excellent.
Yeah, seriously.
So our initial iBank loan we got was 8.8 million. Spent, done with it? No.
You only, so even though you were authorized to 8.8 million, I think initially pass a bond for 8 million without even knowing what you have yet. It was, you know, instead the decision as we were looking at the numbers was to start with where you could get 50% principal. So rather than go to 8, you know, go in all in on that first program, we had meetings with DEP, tried to convince them to give us principal forgiveness for the whole borough. There was no, it's a formula. They couldn't make an exception. But what they could do, because initially they looked at the entire borough, And if you averaged all the census tracts, you wouldn't have gotten any principal. So they were excellent by allowing you to break out one census tract. I thought that that was accommodating. And when they did that, we started there. So that's why your first program was like, it started at, I think we estimated it at 3.2 million, and it actually came in under bid. It came in at 2.7. But then you had room then in your bond because it came in lower than our estimate. So there was a change order for 400,000 to really just maximize what you could do under that first bond. And then towards the end of last year, if you remember, you passed the second bond in order to go up to that 8 million so that you could do the second phase. And so that's where you're at. So you have 8.8 million in the loan. Your bonding also gets you there, which enables you to do both phase revenues.
So after we have completed lead line replacement in that census tract, what do we know what the total cost of that will be? Or you're, I mean, you're waiting on a bid?
1.8 million for the, are you getting
Additional.
the first track? Yeah, that first track would be about 1.8 more is what we're estimating. If you go back several slides to the one that has the A and B broken out, that the remainder of that first census tract to finish the lead service lines, and that would be another 1.8. And
So
then-
it'll be about 4.8 was the total for that tract,
yes,
half of which is forgiven by the Ag Bank. Okay.
and then the remainder, the 2.5 will be for the test pits. Now you'll have a little more, room, but there's, the soft costs, the engineering costs, bond counsel fees and everything. So we like to leave a little bit of room. And then again, if there's money still remaining up to that 8.8, maybe there'll be an opportunity to do a change order and do some more on service lines. But we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We want to be conservative in case, there is.
I know Ben has a question, but Ben, let me just ask one, if you don't mind. And what's our projected timeline for the completion of the program?
So last year we allowed a year. So we went out to bid and I think it was around July last year. We gave them until August and they're done and it's May, right? So we're gonna give the same amount of time because it's a twice as large of a program. So last time we did 1,000 test pits, but we had more lead service lines built into that last program. So we did 345 and then another 100 on top of that. So it's 2,000 test pits and only 73 replacements. So we're still going to allow a year. And our hope is you don't know what bidder you're going to get, but we had a really great group of bidders last time. This project got attention from a lot of the really large companies that were interested in trying to do these programs. And a lot of them are able to do them very fast. So we will allow a year, but we're going to set interim milestones because we know about when we have to get the letters out. And we have to make it realistic. We know on average they did about 30 a day test pits. So we have to see when we get the bid. We're going to do the math and make sure we don't set an unrealistic timeline. Because what that will do is it will increase the number of crews and it could make the cost go up, right? So we'll have to look at the timeline and set a realistic timeline. But overall, I think you should be looking at a year max for this.
A year for this phase or a year till we're?
Year for this second phase,
Right.
and then you're gonna have identified lead service lines you're gonna have to come back and do, and then you're gonna need to make a decision. You're gonna need to decide, am I only gonna do 10% a year now because I have till 2031? Or am I gonna wanna do a bigger program?
Yeah,
So
Right.
those would be decisions for after you get the results of your phase two.
Ben.
Thank you, Mayor. Of course, I'm always gonna wait for you to ask your questions first. You're the mayor. So I just wanted to comment on Locust Avenue where I live and you changed the line on our house. I was very impressed with the whole, how efficient everything ran. A little messy for a while, but it's very fast. So is there, I know you're talking about DEP tests and whatnot, is there any measure that you have of how much less lead is in our drinking water? Now, in our household, we had filter on all of our drinking water already because we knew there was lead in the water. So how much, do you have any grasp of how much
I don't,
treatment there is and
I think it
production
would
of
be
lead?
individual, household household. It definitely isn't in the main, it isn't in your drinking water in the mains. It would really, you would almost have to test it within your individual household if you had lead. It's after it leaves the main and enters the service into that house. That makes sense.
It does. I'm glad I filters are aware.
Thank you. Anyone else have a question?
I do. Thank you very much for the presentation, and as someone whose lead service line did get replaced, I want to say thank you. The service was quick, efficient, and I saw the crews working. Would it be safe to say that we are exceeding the state's minimum requirements for completing this project by far? Okay, that's really great. And what I also appreciate is that the lead service line data is being put into GIS, and I think that's wonderful. So thank you very much.
So assuming we were going full bore with this project to finish it as quickly as possible, I guess we need to wait and see the results of these test pits to get an idea of when we're gonna have a completion date.
Mainly because last time we made an assumption on percentage.
We were way off.
And so, I mean, initially, I would say, based on other locations where we're doing flood service line and test pitting, we were seeing numbers like 15 to 20%. We saw 50%, now the housing stock in the first location was older housing stock. I mean, I think there's been more turnover in properties on the other census tract. So hopefully we're going to go down to more of a reasonable 15 to 20%. If we're doing 2,000 test pits, even if you only find 15%, you're going to be at 300. But some of those are already identified as lead, so it's not necessarily adding to that. So I think what's going to happen is once we get through this second phase, we'll know exactly what those numbers are. And then you'll have to look at those and make a decision on you're well ahead of where you needed to be with the 10% per year. You've blown that away, but just from a borough standpoint, do you want to do X number this year, the following year, and that's going to be a council decision.
Yeah, I'm personally less concerned with meeting state requirements.
Yeah.
Anyone else have a question? Yeah.
I just wanted to compliment you and your team again. This has been really a great example of how a project should be done. I mean, beyond your presentation today, the coordination that was done on the ground with this, I'm in the first track, I'm on the west side, and the communication that was on the ground, the people that came to my door, everybody who I spoke with, there was clear communication. I was test pitted, and then when they went to go replace it, they found that it had replaced, but it was over a couple feet from where the old was, and there was a lot of that uncertainty, and there was a lot of pivoting that has to happen with these projects. And I just feel like, as messy as it is, we all realize the importance of, like the mayor said, clean, safe drinking water. And I'm just really pleased with the speed and the overall organization of all this. So congratulations to you and your team. It's really exemplary.
And Jeff, and I just wanted to give you the opportunity to state that Ingenuity just received an award,
Oh, yeah.
Receive the
right, through New Jersey Alliance for Action, right? For this project.
for this project, the borough received
makes
an
sense.
award as well as Ingenuity and Montana from Alliance for Action, basically for capital improvement project.
Do we sell the award to get a couple more lead line replacements in there? Just, I mean, that's great.
And also Ingenuity was recognized as 2024 Small Business Prime Contractor of the Year, correct? And I think it's important for the public to know that Ingenuity is a Red Bank civil engineering company, so. You guys have your all in the Galleria. You have been overly communicative with me, which is very much appreciated. And I can't thank you enough for being just so professional through this entire process and being here for all of us as, people that need to get the information out to the public. You always took the time, provide an answer after hours. We text, we call, it's very much appreciated. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you. I think that's it. Yeah. Before we get to the next item, I just, and maybe Kate will speak to this a little bit more. We just found out before the council meeting that a longtime resident of Red Bank, Danny Murphy, passed away. Danny Steakhouse, I know he just sold the business, so, Danny was a great guy. I met him a few years before I ran. Just warm and supportive, and yeah, it's a loss for the borough. So maybe we could just have a moment of silence for Danny. Thank you. Okay, can I have a motion to open the floor for public comments on agenda items only?
I make such a motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I.
So again, as the agenda states, opening up the floor now for public comments just on agenda items. And this is a packed agenda, so I look forward to your questions and comments. Floor is yours. Yes, Jimmy. Jimmy, you got a comment? What? That's crazy. Come on, man.
I couldn't get it in last week because it's something that somebody mentioned.
I just can't do the whole.
Yeah. Somebody mentioned something.
Hold on, do the whole.
Yes, I go.
Gotta do the whole thing.
Last thing. I get the last one at the end. It's on Jimmy Dark 48, what's something to that record school. The comment I wanted, the thing I wanted is, the borough manager, you said, you talking about PR. What is PR? You mentioned last that you started, there's gonna be a new job about PR.
Right, public relations,
What is that dealing with?
just our way of communicating directly to the public in a much more efficient way.
But if you, that's, you said $90,000, right?
That's the max. There's a range.
The reason I'm saying this is a long thing, because I had to talk about this. Because the PR person is, what is he gonna tell me? Is he gonna go out in the public and tell me something that is something already, some people been here almost 100 years, they can tell you a whole lot of things. Daily. But my thing is, isn't that an awful lot to be given a person? And, making a decision, and then I sort of did my homework. They said a lot of towns really don't have PR person. And they were saying, what do you really need a PR person if you have, like a person like you? You're new here. You only been here 4 months. So basically, if you out in the public, riding a bicycle, driving around, you get to know more people around here. And the question, right? Because throughout New Jersey is very big, and throughout from the East Coast to the West Coast. And I had asked, they said, you know what? We don't even have that. We have, basically, they said, it's like a borough manager or whatever you want to, manager, and that's all we really need. Because the PR person is not going to know everything. He will say, I'll get back to you. That's like you come here, so I'll get back to you in 2 weeks. I'll get back to you in 3 weeks. And my thing is that's, you're going to put the taxpayers further, instead of staying out of debt, that's going to go deeper into debt. Because they come to the meeting, if it be in a Tri-City newspaper, it's on the internet, and you say it has to be bilingual. But basically, I'm just going to tell you, the cell phone, somebody told me you can get everything on this cell phone. And they said, I'm going to show you all languages hit. But think if you have, that's like what you're talking about, this PR person, when you mention something like this, it should be paperwork posted about this. And it makes it easier because this town shouldn't have to keep going deeper into debt. It's only a small shoebox. It's not like North Camden, New Jersey, something like that, because whoever this person comes about, it's gonna be put with questions that he cannot answer. And he can't say, I'll get back to you in 3 weeks. And that's too much debt. I think you should back off of that because, taxpayers' money's been thrown away too deep. And I mean, it's going on too long, and I think that should just be erased. The PR person, I might have a question for him, he might don't want to answer.
That's fine. I appreciate the comments, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, and the other question I want to ask Mayor Portman, I think I'll do that when public comments come out, but this is the main one because I say taxes that's going, is out of the group, unnecessary things. I'm speaking to myself, unnecessary things shouldn't be hit like this. Because, you know, making up something that you don't need, because you got these, all y'all sit up on this board, any question can come up here, you hear Monday, and you come in here and ask you the question, because you're the manager. I might come to you. I have just like sitting here now. Now, you say I can't answer that question, and I shouldn't have to wait a month or 2 weeks. If I've been here 100 years, I said, well, this man been here, I've been here 100 years. That's the easiest question to ask, but you can't keep going on this stockpile, you know, I mean, stacking the deck against people. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Anyone else have comments on agenda items? Yes.
It says,
State your name.
still 25 Cedar Street, I think, there's an ordinance, adjusting the 2-minute, 5-minute rule, but it also said you have to give addresses. Lately, people aren't giving their full addresses. So if you don't give your full address, are you not allowing people to talk? Or are they just allowed to say, I'm just from how long? Number one. Number two, delivery truck is spelled wrong in the ordinance regarding the trailers and for the 10,000 pounds. I don't have the ordinance number in front of me. And also I was kind of want some clarification on that because it's saying trailers, but then you're specifically saying trailers for boats. Would you have trailers for jet skis? Or some people use trailers for other things, or you just saying trailers for something regarding boats, then the I think the number before that, it was mentioning trailers too. So you can have trailers and you can't have trailers for boats, so I can have trailers for jet skis. So it seems a little weird why you purposely highlighted boats. Are you against boats?
That was in addition to language, not.
Yeah, I mean, I can have that. I mean, so the delivery is not misspelled, it's livery cabs, so it's people that pick up people for fares, so that is intentionally spelled that way. You're not allowed to have boats or jet ski is considered a boat, it's got a whole number, it's gotta be registered just like a boat. So you can't have trailers with watercraft on the street. Probably could add the word watercraft if that was made it more clear. Raise a decent point that people might try to use that as a loophole.
I believe that language was taken from Long Branch, is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
And at this moment, you can have trailers attached to vehicles that do not have watercraft on them.
You cannot have an unhitched trailer, which is consistent with the prior ordinance that we passed last time. If that helps.
Okay, so I can have a truck with a trailer on the street.
At this, in this version of the ordinance, which is, I believe is on for workshop, I don't think it's being introduced.
Workshop.
Yeah, we're going to discuss the parameters of, that the ordinance as written right now allows you to keep a trailer that's attached to a vehicle that's capable of moving that trailer
On the street, provided it doesn't have a watercraft on it. So that's currently
how it's written, given that we know we have a bunch of business owners with trailers around town that aren't just going to disappear. And I think that was going to be the subject of our workshop, what we might do with creative solutions, something we might do to, you kind of see us narrowing the box, like, so you saw the unhitched trailers, now you're seeing these oversized vehicles. And then the next step is really, it would be ideal if we could get the trailers, all the trailers off the street, but they're not just going to disappear. So before we push them in weird places around town and pass an ordinance, I left it that way as we go through the layers of regulation on this issue over the course of the last several months. And I know I actually told the council to think about what they might do with it, so.
Yeah, so
Hope you have some good ideas for today.
Trailer that buy garages in my area. I'm sorry, no trucks. that rent areas, garages that are available. Airbnb.
The other thing I want to note, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I just want to make sure that I'm clear for the public since I see like, reporters here and stuff. This is only overnight parking. So it's not like you can't leave your trailer out in front of the house to load up something to go to the, Maz's or something like that. This is only for overnight. From 7 to 7.
Regarding the Airbnb, that's on the agenda. So it's saying that you have to, they live there. How would you, and also something about parking, that you have to list the number of parking spots, and if there's no available parking on the premises, that you can park on the street. How do you monitor all that? Like, how do you know if I have a room and I'm gonna rent it out? I'm renting out all 3 rooms and say I live there, but I'm really not living there on paper. Like, how do you try to monitoring that basically?
Code enforcement. Yeah, and it's typically honestly done by complaint. It's not like we're serving search warrants on people's houses to see if they're renting rooms out. If someone's has a room and they have a problem or there's a roommate issue, and the police get called and the code will be there to follow up to find out what exactly the housing situation is there. That's typically how it happens.
And it is kind of interesting that you wrote in there about, obviously you have no violations, like if a complaint of a noise.
So that's the ordinance as written that was adopted as of
Early 2023. So the only changes that are in the ordinance that's on there tonight are one, you're allowed to rent out a room in a single family or up to 2 rooms in a single family home. Where you occupy the rest of the home. And it eliminates the zoning restrictions and then leaves all of the other owner occupied aspects in place.
It also strengthens certain aspects of the ordinance.
Yes, and our code was having trouble enforcing this, so we actually, this is both a policy issue. The mayor's is owner occupied is very important to the mayor in terms of making it affordable for people if they need to use their house in a creative way. But on the flip side, our code department, we had a meeting with the prosecutor here in the town who was having difficulty because if you read it closely the way it was, the exceptions don't really match up from section B to section C. And so people were using the gray areas when they got to court as a loophole. So if you notice, there's a lot of language that doesn't, on its face, it doesn't make a lot of sense from a policy standpoint as to why there's language changed in B and why C is crossed out. But it's fundamentally because that makes it clearer for our people to enforce. They had a problem with it in court because there's some of the converse between B and C didn't match.
And back to the enforcement, which is obviously important. How would this code find out that there's a violation? Is it?
Usually a disruption. I mean, just this, the same way code
Finds out that you have many violations, code doesn't know you have bamboo in your backyard until it grows under the fence and it's through the neighbors above ground pool. There is not proactive house searches or what have you. And in the single family context, you're not going to have regular life hazard inspections by the fire marshal. So it's going to be basically on a complaint basis. If there's a problem with the way someone's operated, the code will go out and we'll have an administrative search warrant if necessary to see.
So one last follow-up then. We're assuming the communication between the police and code. So if the police called out on a Saturday or Sunday.
Yes.
There would be some notification.
That already exists. If they get a noise complaint and they believe it's an Airbnb, they leave it for Frankie and Tommy for Monday mornings.
We're at over 3 minutes. Sorry, Sue. I know that was very informative. But the last thing I was gonna say, I know we're gonna have opportunity to talk on this more, but there's also gonna be a licensing procedure now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's also a big change that I wanted to highlight.
The licensing in the current is kind of illusory, so now it'll be real.
Be real.
Thank you, yes.
Chris Havens, 111 River Street, Red Bank. Terrific about the impound lot. It's needed.
Just to be clear, it's been there. We're just renewing the lease.
Terrific about the impound lot at least. Things that even can tell to my neighborhood. On my side. Segue though, I'm glad the council is very carefully dealing with the trailers that are left overnight on the street by my neighbors who use those. A lot of large. My neighbors have, and we have great neighbors, so I'm glad you're approaching this very steadily. On the Airbnb, I think it's terrific what you're doing in the ordinance.
thank God that the last council, even though the ordinance was very faulty, stopped pro Airbnbs. Says be devastating the public rental stock. We did that. That's why people don't do it. Traffic, parties, things that Sue talked about, homeowners next door unsafe, fire sprinklers, tough on the hotels. So thank God we're doing it the way you're suggesting we do it, where people can do it in their home and register. It's super important for meeting rental stock. Majority of units on the west side are rented, so it's very important. Chicken legal, fantastic. My daughter and my lawyer raise chickens, so what can I say? A lot of stuff tonight. In favor of the weed stores here, glad it's capped at 3, really important, but also in favor of the taxes. Really want that money to come in for us. That's terrific. And last but not least, I want to compliment Montana Construction. But last but not least, great to see about the film stuff that you're following up, get us involved in that. Red Bank is definitely ready for our flips on Mr. Film. And I want to give an Oscar to the council and the mayor for the work they've done. The last 12 months, I bet more than 12 months than the previous 5 years in the city council. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Yes.
I'm with Michelle. I live on Oakland Street. I do live next door to an Airbnb. And I just wanted to get some clarification on the owner occupancy. Right now, it is owned by an LLC. So what is stopping his wife from changing her address and getting mail sent there to make it seem like she lives in the residence? Because the fine is nothing to this man. He charges over $800 a night for this Airbnb. So the fine, he'll pay that and.
No, this won't be a fine. You're gonna be not allowed to have an Airbnb if it's not owner occupied.
How would that be enforced? Because he's already has several complaints. And they're still.
Yeah, but
Yesterday.
we're just introducing the ordinance, so it's not a law yet. So this is the first reading, and then in 2 weeks, hopefully it'll be passed.
So if it is found out, like, let's say like his wife just makes that her address, but it's still an Airbnb and they're actually live in a different town, how would that be enforced?
I mean, there's a couple ways. Listen, if we see this is one half of a duplex, this is the other half of your, right? So if it's a duplex and we know the owner living in one side and the other half is posted on Airbnb for rent, clearly, this is not owner occupied. It's defeating the purpose of the ordinance.
And the ordinance specifically defines it. That may very well be an issue of fact if there's a court proceeding, like if there's summonses issued and there's a trial in connection with that, then that would be part of the determination by the judge who will be sitting in the mayor's seat on a different day during business hours. But it's defined in the ordinance. It says principal residence. The address, one, where at least one of the property owners spends the majority of his or her non-working time. It also includes the principles of an LLC as well, just so you know, like you could own your house in an LLC and live there as long as your name, you'd have to bring in your business registration certificate. And then getting back to this, but a non-working time, 2, which is most clearly the center of his or her domestic life, and 3, which is identified on his or her license or state identification card as being his or her legal address. All of the above requirements must be met for an address to constitute a principal residence for the purposes of this section. So the answer is the judge, at the end of the day, the judge would decide. You have to sit up here under oath in one of these chairs and testify to it and bring your proofs. And the judge would determine whether you're in violation or not. I'd also note that the violation is $2,500 per day in this ordinance. So it is a substantial, this is a housing issue. And the fines for people who run housing that's unsafe or otherwise not registered or not compliant.
Life issue when there's parties on a Wednesday night and you're telling people to please be quiet and they're like screaming at you.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's why we want to fix it.
I've had it in my hometown too. It's not fun. And this is the first step towards trying to capital.
Thank you. Anyone online, Jim?
There's one more person here.
Oh, I'm sorry, just one second.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, this is Matt Tate, 153 Hudson Avenue. I know this picture doesn't look like me, but it is me, I assure you. So anyway, I want to commend the council for this STR legislation. I think the smartest thing that this council has done vis-a-vis this legislation is to introduce a licensing procedure. This licensing procedure is paramount. Not only will it bring revenue to the municipality, but it gives us an ironclad way to enforce the policies associated with this legislation. I was originally raising my hand to suggest such a licensing measure, but I'm glad to see that it's already been discussed and put into the document. So thank you for that. That's my only comment. Great job, guys. Have a good night.
Good evening. Cindy Burnham, 71 Wallace Street. So over the last few weeks, I've called and reported that one of the Airbnbs has been renting it out. And maybe this is what brought you guys to this tweaking.
I believe he's the one who came to court and found the loophole.
Oh.
The person you reported.
Can we?
He's the person I believe that we had an issue enforcing it against. And that's why.
Okay. So let's just say, this thing doesn't pass till the next council meeting. What if this guy rents out his Airbnb again? It's illegal. It's in a residential zone. What do we do? Do we call the police if it's off hours?
If you think there's another violation of the ordinances or laws that is happening as a result of that rental, then you can certainly absolutely call the police department or code. Your cans on the front lawn, noise, loud music, any of those, whether it's your own house or a rental or.
Well, just because it's an illegal use going on.
So that's what I'm telling you is that the judge had difficulty finding that with the current wording of the ordinance, which is why we're changing it a lot, changing a lot of it tonight, more than would be necessary just to make it an owner occupied exception. You can see in sections B and C of section 2, there's a lot of changes because that gentleman filed a clever attorney here to court. So we're gonna have to close the loophole.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening, John Yurish, 38 Washington Street. I'm not sure I understand what the council's motivation to allowing the Airbnbs is. Certainly, there are so many issues with it and such great risk to the fabric of neighborhoods. There's an Airbnb on my street also that has lots of parties. And I don't know, calling the police and having people hauled into court seems only like it's taxing the system more. I just don't understand why, for the good of a few, many of us have to suffer.
So the ordinance that we are amending, I think does a few things. One, because we have the owner occupied clause in there, I don't think you're going to be having these party houses. You're going to literally have a homeowner who's maybe he's in the duplex and he's renting out the other half, who's on site. One of the reasons that we wanted to give people the ability to do this is as property taxes go up, as housing costs go up. We heard a lot of testimony last year when we were doing this we heard from a single mother who's, hey, sometimes I rent out a room in my house because I have to make my mortgage payment. There was a woman who said, I'm a senior citizen and I'd like to rent out a room in my house for actors that are coming in to the Two River Theater and they're here for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or traveling nurses that are working over here at the hospital. So It's a way for people to ideally bring in some extra income and get through some tough times. It's one of the reasons we want to maybe revisit the accessory dwelling unit law, where people are allowed to build a mother-in-law house, they call it, in the back, or an apartment over a garage. So that's the real drive. I think that, I do think the owner occupied clause is really gonna eliminate the partying and quality of life issues.
Mayor, if I could also follow too, it's important if you understand what we can do. We're not allowed to just outright ban short-term rentals. The district court in New Jersey has determined that's taking a property that's entitled to just compensation. So it's important that you understand we can't just outright ban. Owner occupied is the most stringent ordinance out there that hasn't yet been struck down. So Asbury Park has it. This is pretty much as stringent as we're legally allowed to make it under the current law. And whether this survives as it's surviving right now, this is a very, obviously, as you can imagine, with Airbnbs becoming popular only in the last several years.
Short-term rentals.
Short-term rent, I'm sorry.
It's like,
We're gonna get sued by Airbnb, right? And, or we should get a promotional fee. With short-term rentals, you can only, I just want to let you know, we're not allowed to just outright ban them. It's a taking, but that's what the federal courts ruled. So this is pretty much as far as we can go.
There a process or an option to revisit if things aren't going well?
Always, yeah.
Thank you.
In fact, that's what we're basically doing with the unhitched trailer ordinance. It's, tweaking it. So, thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I live at Oakland Street in town. To the same questions
Would you
that,
just state your name for the record? Yes.
to the questions that have been raised before and like the comparison of like, it's like bamboo growing under a fence. It's not. These short-term rentals are typically available online, like you can see them right now. You could pull up a short-term rental website and see however many are available in Red Bank. I think it oscillates somewhere between 8 and 10. So will the enforcement of the ordinance be proactive? Will you be reaching out to the owners of those properties? They're pretty easy to find out where they are. Based on those listings, will you be reaching out to the owners? Will you be looking through tax records to proactively address this?
Personally, I would like us to be proactive on this and to get it pretty quickly. I think it's gonna be pretty easy to determine if this should be that to do, like you say. STO sites, check the address. Clearly can just lose the send code enforcement. Now, I don't know what the process is gonna be. I don't know if a letter goes out, says you're in violation.
So in beach towns, they do, you're talking about proactive enforcement, essentially. They do proactive enforcement in beach towns when they have their, beach town usually hires 4 or 5 more code officers for the summertime though, and then one of those people is assigned to it. But so I would defer to Jim as to whether the code enforcement has the resources or if it was periodic or we can review that.
Yeah, I think part of this is the teeth that we're giving to our actual enforcement officers. It'll be my recommendation that we are proactively searching for these things, and that's something that we discussed as well. And I think that it's important that they're proactively looking for violations in the borough. Oftentimes, code is reliant on the community reporting things to us, but it still is their job to go out, drive around, look for things. This isn't one of those things that's seen as far as like tall grass, but it should be a function of their responsibilities to search for code violations and where they exist in town and enforce them. So it will be an expectation once I can give them the teeth to do so.
just want to reiterate that, when we were up on this dais before dealing with this, and I didn't support it, was because there were concerns that it was not enforceable as written. I stated that it was not enforceable as written, and it was going to hurt the people that we don't want to hurt because of these larger narratives about, there are some truths about Airbnbs, right? We look at cities, look at affordability, look at gentrification. What? short-term rentals, but I'm saying the truth is about Airbnbs. I said that the way I wanted to. There are truths about Airbnbs, but we weren't thinking about those short-term rental people, and it wasn't balanced legislation. It wasn't enforceable. For the people that were getting hurt that are here speaking today, they couldn't enforce it, so it wasn't enforceable. And it was not helping the people that need help in the town. So we have to be able to hold two things in our hand at the same time. That these two things are both being addressed in one ordinance. I know that there's these larger narratives about housing and Airbnbs and how they hurt them, but as was said before, visiting nurses, visiting actors that need longer term stay, people that want to rent out a room for those people, they're not staying at the Molly or the Oyster for 3 weeks, okay? None of us could afford that. So we need to be mindful of the working class as well, and when you take away these rights, what it does to them.
Anyone else have a comment on agenda items only? Can you hold it, can you hold it till the public comment at the end as well?
Not the single.
Thank you. Any other? Good.
I did want to make a comment because I don't know if all these will be here when we speak later. I'm Councilman Forrest. I wasn't a councilman when the ordinance, the flawed ordinance, which essentially was, in my opinion, a ban, although of course it's illegal to do a ban. I was in the audience and I was very, and I ran on it. I am okay with owner occupied, for a couple of reasons. Obviously we'll revisit it if it's a problematic thing. I heard both sides of it as I was here as a resident. My wife and I could have struggles in our retirement. We're not too far away. Could it be that we might rent an air, I don't know if I want to say, I don't want to get my colleagues upset, a short-term rental. I could conceive it happening in our house. We've traveled to many places and taken advantage of Airbnbs, whether it be Paris or domestic. I do think they need to be regulated, and under the current ordinance, it was just a mess. I do like the fact that you have to register. I do like that, most powerful to me is that you have to live in that residence. So a lot of the testimony I remember hearing as a resident and even tonight had to do with lack of supervision, problems. Also, by the way, if some Airbnb owner is irresponsible and allows reckless behavior, they will have their right to their Airbnb license pulled. I think it's 2 offenses, basically, as I recall reading the ordinance. And it is, a taking. We can't just ban it. So I think it's better to regulate it pretty strictly. I think this is a reasonable compromise. I do not want investment properties that are just Airbnbs that, the owners don't come here, they don't live in Red Bank, whatever it is. That is a disaster. And another concern to me is the effect it has on the cost of housing in town. And lastly, we are a destination town. We have amazing things happening in Red Bank. We have theaters here. I go to the theater. I know what I'm talking about. A lot of people come to this town because, in fact, to some extent, sometimes we're too successful in Red Bank. I moved in when it was, the nickname was Dead Bank in 1996, and now our town is a thriving, amazing place to be with lots of things happening. And I think having short-term rentals, some option for short-term rentals, a conservative approach where it's regulated and owner occupied, I think is a reasonable step, and I do plan to vote yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And Jim, you just had someone else online.
Yeah, hi there. I was curious if I missed the public comment section of the agenda.
Oh, no.
Well, we're in public comments for agenda items only right now. There'll be another open public comment closer to the end of the meeting.
Awesome. Here, I'll wait for that. Thank you, council.
Thank you. Anyone else before we close the public comments? No? Can I have a motion to close the public comment on agenda items only?
Make such a motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from 4/25/24?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we got a bunch of ordinances to get through. First up, public hearing and adoption of 2024-16, approving a 2-year lease agreement for an approximately 5,000 square foot fenced-in portion of real property located at 208 South Pearl Street, Red Bank, New Jersey, for the public purpose of a police impound yard. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing on this ordinance only?
So moved.
Can I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, anyone want to add anything about the impound yard?
We need it.
Well said.
Can I have a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance only?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-16?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please, Laura.
Councilmember Bonatakis?
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy?
Yes.
Councilmember Facie Blackwood?
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest?
Yes.
Councilmember Janone?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Trigiano?
Yes.
Mayor Portman?
Yes.
Motion passes, sir.
Thank you. Next up, public hearing and adoption for 2024-17 ordinance amending chapter 355 filming to update the borough's commercial filmmaking regulations to seek film-ready certification from the New Jersey Motion Picture and Television Commission. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing on this ordinance only?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone? Can I have a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance only?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have a motion to adopt 2024-17.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bonatakis?
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy?
Yes.
Councilmember Facie Blackwood?
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest?
Yes.
Councilmember Janone?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Trigiano?
Yes.
Mayor Portman?
Yes,
Motion passes, sir.
thank you. And again, I want to recognize Councilman Cassidy for his hard work on getting this ordinance together. Thank you,
Thank you.
sir.
And Mr. Mayor, before we move on to the next ordinance, I want to again note my recusal from voting on this particular ordinance.
Mine as well.
Okay. By the way, Dave just graduated law school. You finished.
I just like how you just popped that in the middle of it.
Yeah. Oh, I hear being like, Dave is taking his bar exam for the 7th time.
Get tie, right, Greg?
Okay,
So transparent.
next up is a public hearing and adoption of 2024-18, amending chapter 64, Fire Department to revise the annual eligibility requirements for the borough's length of service awards program for volunteer firefighters. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing on this ordinance only?
I'll make such a motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance only?
I'll make such a motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-18?
I'll make such a motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Bonatakis?
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy?
Accused.
Councilmember Facie Blackwood?
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest?
Yes.
Councilmember Janone?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Trigiano?
Recused.
Mayor Portman?
Yes,
Motion passes, sir.
just for the public to know, both Deputy Mayor Tree and Councilor Cassidy are active volunteer firefighters, which is why they recuse themselves. Next up is public hearing and adoption of 2024-19, the ordinance amending Article 2, poultry, fowl of Chapter 731, animals to modify the conditions of keeping poultry and fowl in the borough. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing on this ordinance only?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone have any comments on the new poultry ordinance? All right then, what a shame. I was looking for a vigorous chicken debate. Can I have a motion to close the hearing on this ordinance only?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-19?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bonatakis?
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy?
Yes.
Councilmember Facy Blackwood?
Yes.
Member Forrest?
Yes.
Councilmember Janone?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Trigiano?
Yes.
Mayor Portman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Chickens.
All right,
Yes.
next up, public hearing and adoption of, oh, I don't have a number on this one.
20, sir.
20, thank you. Public hearing and adoption of 2024-20, authorizing acceptance of a cross-access and utility easement in connection with land use approvals granted to Ray Rapp Realty.com Inc. for a development project located at Harding Road, Hudson Avenue, Clay Street. And for those of you that don't know, I think this is the Azalea Gardens project is finally up and moving. We'll get down those ugly fences and get something on that.
I'll believe it when I see it.
So can I have a motion to open the public hearing on this ordinance only?
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone have any comments? Yes. As a neighbor. Seems appropriate. Yeah.
Good evening, my name is Georgina Shanley. I live in Red Bank, very close to Azalea. And I want to just lodge my objection to this easement because already we have public safety hazards with the traffic there. That easement is between Broad Street and Hudson, and there's a major intersection, this branch. We also have the middle school. And this is going to be a hazard for pedestrians and for traffic. Already it's overcrowded with cars and it's a danger. So I object.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Do I have a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance only?
I'll make such a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, can I have a motion to adopt 2024-20?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bonatakis?
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy?
Yes.
Councilmember Facy Blackwood?
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest?
Yes.
Councilmember Janone?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Trigiano?
Yes.
Mayor Portman?
Yes.
Motion passes, sir.
Next up, we have a public hearing and adoption for 2024-21, adding new chapter 539 salt storage to the borough's revised general ordinances to establish standards for the storage of salt and other solid de-icing materials in accordance with NJDEP requirements. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing on this ordinance only?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone? Can I have a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance only?
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-21?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bonatakis?
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy?
Yes.
Councilmember Facy Blackwood?
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest?
Yes, for salt.
Councilmember Janone?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Trigiano?
Yes.
Mayor Portman?
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Next up is a public hearing and adoption for 2024-22, amending and supplementing section 680-60, schedule 26, restricted parking for handicapped persons. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing on this ordinance only?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public? Any comments? Can I have a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance only?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-22?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bonatakis?
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy?
Yes.
Councilmember Facy Blackwood?
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest?
Yes.
Councilmember Janone?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Trigiano?
Yes.
Mayor Portman?
Yes,
Motion passes, sir.
thank you. Next up is introduction of ordinance 2024-14, ordinance replacing chapter 665 trees with new regulations requiring permits for certain tree removals and requiring tree replacements in accordance with NJDEP stormwater regulation. Can I have a motion to approve on introduction?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Bonatakis?
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy?
Yes.
Councilmember Facy Blackwood?
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest?
Yes.
Councilmember Janone?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tridiano?
Yes.
Mayor Portman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. There will be a public hearing on this ordinance on May 23rd. Next up is an introduction for 2024-23. Amending prior uncodified ordinance number 2023-02. Establishing a new chapter entitled Short-Term Rentals to revise said regulations to permit short-term rentals within only owner-occupied premises. Can I have a motion to approve on introduction for 2024-23?
I'll make such a motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Bonatakis?
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy?
Yes.
Councilmember Facy Blackwood?
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest?
Yes.
Councilmember Janone?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tridiano?
Yes.
Mayor Portman?
Yes.
Motion passes, sir.
Public hearing on this will be May 23rd?
Yes, sir.
Yes, May 23rd on this ordinance. Next up, an introduction, 2024-24, amending chapter 270 cannabis of the borough's revised general ordinances to implement a medical cannabis transfer tax. I have a motion to approve on introduction. I have a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bonatakis?
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy?
Yes.
Councilmember Facy Blackwood?
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest?
Yes.
Councilmember Janone?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tridiano?
Yes.
Mayor Portman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And take this moment to remind the public again. There seems to still be confusion on it that the borough has awarded 3 licenses as per the current ordinance for retail. Thank you. And we do not have plans to award any more, regardless of what, who goes before the planning board to get an approval for this. That's about site use approval. You would still need a license to operate as a retail cannabis dispensary, and we are not currently giving out any more of those licenses. So even if somebody is approved at the planning board, they still need to come to the council to get a license. Okay, resolutions. First we'll do, I know Tom is here patiently, resolution 24-117, public hearing and adoption of the 2024 municipal budget. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing on the municipal budget?
So moved.
Can I have a second? All right, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, anyone have any budget questions? Tom, you want to give a quick, like to hit the high points?
Hi, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me all
Yeah.
right? This is the budget, raising taxes, part by $14,996,509.88. For a total budget of $30,446,776.30. The committee, ad hoc committee worked, myself and, Twitter, and we, I think we got a very good budget. Taxes, the tax rate is actually going down based on a lot to do with assessments decreasing by 5%. So actually the taxes that we have to raise is under 3%. We're putting in everything we need for operations of the borough. A lot of capital projects are being planned. We're funding, the down payments for those projects, and the future debt is not incurred yet. That won't be incurred until we spend those funds. I think we're improving different things in the operations. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So what is I guess maybe just a kind of a little bit more detailed breakdown of what has increased the budget this year.
So we have increased of pension costs, and then our capital improvement fund has increased probably about the full amount of our tax increase, and that deals with possible work on the park. A lot of the road projects, we need to put down 5% down payment. So you look at the increase of like around 400,000, 300,000 of that is from the capital improvement fund. Salaries all went up, over 2%. Pension costs went up, you know, we have no control over that. Health insurance costs we've kept under control. We have our MelGIF costs, slight increase. So we were just keeping our operations going and not a hard hit to the taxpayer. I'm looking at both sides. I understand the taxpayers portion, but I understand we have to, you know, keep our operations efficient.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
No, I just want to say thank you again for giving a thorough budget presentation and, you know, we're on the final stage of this. We're voting, you know, this is the public hearing and adoption. So anybody who's just tuning in now, there was a fair amount of coverage on this. You could see articles that covered his budget presentation. But thank you for your hard work of keeping services, you know, equal or if not improving, while also keeping us, you know, steady as she goes. So really appreciate your hard work.
My pleasure.
And Tom, I just wanted to state, just so it's clear to everybody, I know that it was originally said that the increase or the amount to be raised, it was 14
Million, yes.
million, correct? But that the actual increase in the budget is under 3% for
Yes.
all the services that we're still
That's
providing.
one portion, and it could be a little less depending if the county comes in. We always estimate the county at a little around 2%. The schools, they have their caps, but sometimes they can do debt, which can increase their limit of their cap, which is their limit of their increase. We have our caps, we meet all our caps, we have an appropriation cap, and we have a levy cap. So overall, if the school comes in as projected in the county, yeah, the tax rate is gonna go down, and if your assessment doesn't change, you possibly might not have an increase. That's usually the way the assessment demonstration program goes. Possibly a third of the properties might go up more than the average, or you could stay the same, or sometimes you decrease because the assessor adjusts the whole town every year.
And I think it's important to know too, like you said, that the borough and the committee that we created, right, trying to be fiscally responsible here of staying well under our caps.
Oh, way up.
We have a ton of room in our caps. You know, we're not looking to come close to those. We're not looking to push the envelope on those. Making sure that we're staying under that 3% as far as an increase, while still accomplishing a ton of projects that we have on the docket here. I think that this was a really good budget. I really appreciate your work on it. I feel extremely confident as a manager, having such a strong CFO at the helm of our finances. And just speaking and dealing with you on a daily basis, you do a tremendous job. So
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Anyone else have any comments on the budget?
I do.
Yeah, Nancy.
Tom, thank you so much for educating us. I was one of the people that was on the budget subcommittee. And through you, I learned a lot. I liked especially that we remained fiscally conservative, yet providing services and funding for projects that we need for the town. So I just want to say I appreciate you. Thank you.
Anyone online? No, okay, can I have a motion to close the hearing on municipal budget?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to adopt resolution 24-117, the 2024 municipal budget?
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bonatakis?
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy?
Yes.
Councilmember Faisy Blackwood?
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest?
Yes.
Councilmember Janone?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Triano?
Yes.
Mayor Portman?
Yes,
Passes, sir.
thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, can we do the rest of the resolutions on the consent agendas? Okay, with everybody?
Yes.
All right, can I have a motion to pass resolutions 24 -115 and then 24-118 through 24-124?
Make such a motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bonatakis?
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy?
Yes.
Councilmember Faisy Blackwood?
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest?
Yes.
Councilmember Janone?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Triano?
Yes.
Mayor Portman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have a discussion on our oversized vehicle parking ordinance. You want to kick it off and bring us up to speed?
Sure. So this ordinance, as secretly amends chapter 680, which is your parking ordinance, which we did last time. It essentially adds a new section, which is M, pertaining to oversized vehicles. There's obviously a lot of, if you can, just to give you kind of the context for where we're starting. If you look at page 1, chapter 680 has your entire parking and traffic. 680-3 is really your parking regulations. You can see the asterisk there, which means that we're skipping down into the section. There's already A through L that are listed. L is unhitched trailers, which you just recently did. So now we're adding oversized vehicles to M. A through L typically pertain to time limit parking, all basically the signs you see around town, and they're listed in each category. So we're essentially adding a new category of parking regulations to the section of the ordinance that deals with parking. It's pretty straightforward in terms of what the actual provisions I put in here for. This is substantial, it's not exact, but it's substantially similar to Long Branch. Long Branch had more, I will note, had more of a commercial vehicle ban, which part of our initial discussion of this ordinance involved the notion that there are a lot of tradespeople that live in Red Bank, and to take anything with lettering off the road, particularly it's an ordinary passenger size vehicle like a F-150 that has a logo on the side, which would be prohibited in Long Branch, is not prohibited under this ordinance. This ordinance deals with the vehicles based upon their size, which is the issue in Red Bank, people blocking intersections, all the stuff we've heard here at the microphone. And so listing the categories of vehicles that are not allowed to be parked on the street from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. It's essentially no vehicle over 10,000 pounds. Or a bus, tractor trailer, a trailer body of any kind, vacation home or camper trailer, recreational vehicle, motor coach, similar vehicles of any time, essentially anything over 10,000 pounds. No boat or boat trailer of any size shall be parked on any public street. That's the one that Ms. Viscomi brought up earlier. I would actually suggest watercraft or watercraft trailer to put on boat or watercraft, given the comment that we had earlier.
In case Elon Musk invents something.
You never know, and honestly, you guys have some of the most clever municipal court defendants in this town that I've ever seen, that the prosecutor's ever seen, so we will make sure we try to cover everything. The other issue is anyone who has a control, possession, custody, or control, and this would have to be the owner, because a lot of those vehicles are leased, or their company vehicle, that a semi-trailer or trailer of any kind, shall park along the street, unless it's parked or hitched attached to a truck capable of moving it. Obviously, if you park the tractor trailer on the street, you would be over the 10,000 pound limit in any event. This pertains to the fact that you can't leave, it reinforces section L, which says you can't leave an unhitched trailer of any kind on the street at any time. So if you're making a delivery in a semi truck to one of the businesses in town, you can't leave the trailer there. You gotta have the truck attached to it. And as you'll note, that does not have any hours restrictions, M3. In terms of, then there's some exceptions. So section 5, if you're a service vehicle, I don't want to go through the myriad of instances where you might have a trailer that's left unhitched. Like, for example, if you had an air compressor to pump out someone's lawn sprinklers and the foreman went to go get lunch in the truck and left it there while it was pumping the air through, that's exempted from this ordinance, kind of common sense sort of things like that. And then the last is any vehicle that's part or any vehicle, boat, equipment, which will be watercraft or trailer parked in violation, can be towed. It authorizes them there 6 to tow it off the street for matters of public safety. And this is your next level of regulation before we get to the trailers that we talked about earlier. I don't know if anyone has suggestions on this or, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped number 4, I apologize. This is no limousine, livery van, or taxi. So if you're a for-hire car, you can't leave it parked on the street at night. You know, that is not allowed, and that's not really allowed anywhere.
Greg, I have a question. If you are attached, you have a trailer attached to your vehicle and say it has like 3 lawn machines on it, so it's a pretty big distance. How does this ordinance work with a vehicle like that?
You are currently allowed to park that on the road. You're allowed to leave that under the ordinance that it's written right now. You're allowed to leave that on the road right now.
Okay, because I do know a lot of people complain about these types of vehicles being left on the road. And I just wondered, is that part of the cumulative 10,000 town limit or not? So I was just curious.
That would apply to the gross vehicle weight of the vehicle as part of the principal vehicle. Yeah, we're gonna have to deal with the trailers in a separate way. I also forgot a very important point that I think the public should know. The weight restriction is the standard measurement, but there's also another provision that says the foregoing restrictions, being a vehicle you can park out on the street overnight, regardless of weight rating, cannot have roof storage of ladders, scaffolding, other equipment or materials or items which overhang either the front or the rear bumper. Because you could park a regular, F-150 that's under 10,000 pounds with a roof rack that has a full 25-foot ladder on it, and that's really defeats the purpose of the oversized vehicle ordinance. So that's also there in there as well, to try to cover some of the loopholes. You can't have ladders or things or any kind of equipment overhanging the bumpers of the vehicle as well, in addition to the weight.
Sorry, Mayor. Go ahead. How are we gonna determine what's 10,000 pounds first and foremost? What, is there a metric? How is that gonna be enforceable and determined?
So 10,000 pounds is the motor carrier exception under federal law.
Okay.
And so there should be, and you'd have to talk to this police officer. I believe they can tell. Because of the weight, there's a set of.
Look at that grin coming from the back of the room. Can you actually tell, Captain?
If the vehicle's properly registered, commercially, should have its name.
Just one more to the microphone there. I know it's your first time.
I believe that if the vehicle's properly registered, commercially, they should have their, sign displayed on the side as well as the weight limit of the truck. It is hard to determine on some of these newer trucks, if they're not labeled properly. But I think the officers are gonna have to, use their best judgment in making the determination issue of some of their own.
I guess one of the concerns I have is I don't think that we're still leaving the problem there, right? If we're allowing the hitch trailer to a work truck.
Yeah, that's how the ordinance is.
It feels like, because like what? Like if we're allowing that, like what's the purpose of like not allowing a pickup truck with a jet ski trailer, for example? Like it seems like that's taking up a heck of a lot less space.
From a legal standpoint, there's not. From a practical standpoint, there's a lot of places you can put boats and things. People, I don't see a lot of boats around town, but I do see it. It's a practical issue. You gotta find the solution as to where they're gonna go before we ban them and have the cops towing them off the street. And there's a lot of them. That's really the issue. It's not really a legal distinction. It's a practical distinction of if we start ticketing everyone with those trailers, I don't know where they're gonna go, and we have, I'm perfectly okay writing that, but I'm not sure what effect that has on the town as a whole.
Can we do it by length and do it with a sunrise provision, as we had discussed in the last workshop of this? I know I had said, you had mentioned that former Councilman Yingstrom had suggested an offsite thing. I asked Captain Frazee if that's something he'd agree to be a part of. He stated yes. So, because I agree with the mayor that, that was maybe controlled language here. A few complaints have been about, people's, trailers and things, but we want to, be careful about it and not spring it on people. So if we could put a sunrise clause in.
We could certainly do that.
Captain, do we have any idea how many people may just be from out of Red Bank parking their vehicles here just because they know we don't have an ordinance? I mean, are you ever, I guess if you're running?
Yeah, I mean, mostly from what I see is that a lot of them are landscape. There are some contractors, I guess, that you see, I never counted them while driving around, but there are contractors, with out of town business names on them, which are just employees with take home cars. Not sure what you're looking to do.
Yeah.
It's a hard judgment call. You don't want to hurt the residents. At the same time, you want to enforce, keep the safety of, the residents and everything. Obviously paramount.
Well, one thing I didn't, and I can ask the public this also, that I did not have luck with was, I thought that the church on River Street heading down towards the school, seems to have a pretty big parking lot that's not in use very often. So if someone could help me or Jim get in touch with the pastor over there, maybe we could kind of kill two birds with one stone, right? Pass the ordinance and find a location for these trailers to go. Yeah, that does seem like quite an important, component to the equation.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
And a comment thereafter, but the definition of livery, does that include like Ubers? Is there should maybe we should be explicit about that at this point? And
Expand on that as cars for hire.
Yeah.
It essentially means yes, any credit.
Well, look, my concern right now is that we're gonna be punitive to working people in this town. And that's my concern. So like, just to build off the question about watercraft, that's recreation. Someone who has a hitched trailer, that's their living. And my concern here is that we're suddenly gonna be creating a barrier to people to make their living. Like, I'm not sure, I gotta really reflect on this thing about the rooftop trailers. Now we're gonna be punitive to house painters. I just don't wanna be I don't wanna bar people from making a living in this town and in this area. And that's one of the reasons why we're changing the STR ordinance, is to make the town affordable. I don't wanna now start charging people for their work trailer if it's legitimate. And I don't know how we enforce it yet. I'm just riffing because that's the point of a workshop. But I don't think that people who use their personal vehicle as an Uber, for instance, there should be an exclusion for them. And I'm in favor of not allowing liveries and these cars for hire, et cetera, that those companies should have lots. But an individual who's trying to make do in this town should not be punished for having to engage in the gig economy. And I'd like a carve out for that.
Yeah.
I think we could limit number 4 by,
So, correct me if I'm wrong, Captain, but the limousine cars for hire have to register. Don't they have special license plates?
Taxi license. Oh, well, yeah, like Arrow Limousine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we could do is we can make sure that they're the ones that are registered as limousines and cars for hire. That would not include Ubers or anyone who uses a personal vehicle, rideshare, anything like that. Jim, can you do me a favor? Can you reach out to the manager in Long Branch? Because they have this law on the books there, right?
Yeah, the issue with the Long Branch one and why, so from the feedback we've gotten from full council, like the last workshop meeting and everything, is kind of what Councilman Cassidy was just saying, is we're here to legislate safety, not the aesthetics.
Right.
Like, we want to keep our communities safe, but how far deep into this do we want to go about the look of people's vehicles? Long Branches had language, and the reason why ours is more focused on the weight of the vehicles and what that weight would do to our infrastructure and the impact of that. Long Branch's ordinance had a lot of language just about if you had a vehicle of any size and it happened to have the name of a company on the side of it, it wasn't allowed. And we were trying to be sensitive to that and not be so overbearing on the working class and people who use their cars, for their families and for their work, and it's the main vehicle of the family, which is the case for many of my neighbors. We're being sensitive to that. So we're trying to find a very hard balance here of being human, legislating from a human, a caring place, but we want to know what's safe and what's not safe, not what's aesthetically pleasing and what's not aesthetically pleasing, I guess, if that makes sense.
And do we know, are they providing also any parking in town, Long Branch, for commercial vehicles?
I highly doubt that.
Not soon enough.
I'm gonna doubt. We go above and beyond in this town as much as we can to help people.
Well, I personally, I don't think we're there yet. I'm not comfortable moving forward and introducing this yet. I know we have to do something. So.
Can we talk about, is it the length with trailers? Would that be the starting point?
I've seen ordinances where it includes the length of the truck and trailer. And I know you're a little hesitant, so I don't know.
I'm sending us out, or my police officers out there with tape measures.
Right.
Say, all right,
Yeah, it's
30 foot between the.
maybe 2.5 police.
Piecing it out, you know, I think,
I have seen it where it's by length because you have some of these like triple axled trailers that are attached to a pickup truck, you know, so that do have 4 or 5, you know.
And that tends to be a safety concern.
Sure, because now you're in, but
So-
that's usually addressed sometimes by, because it's too close to the crosswalk and you guys are enforcing
if they're legally parked, there's really not much we can do.
it right now, right?
Improperly parked, we issue a summons or warning or whatever.
Right.
And if it's,
Discretion is. If it's unsafe, we make sure it's either moved immediately or therefore after.
is there an infrastructure issue with the weight of a vehicle like that being parked? Is that the
I
reason?
mean, no, the trailers that we're all discussing fit the regulatory rubric that we're talking about. They're oversized vehicles, right? When they're connected together, it's essentially 2 vehicles in one.
Uh-huh.
It's the same concept as what's going on here. The only difference between a lot of these vehicles, I don't see a lot of RVs parked on the street in Red Bank. I see a lot, well, there are a few, maybe I don't, okay. There's a lot, I mean, I passed a number of landscaping trailers on the way here, just coming from
Yes.
the Girls Bridge. So, you know, where do they go even if you sunrise it, still isn't worked out. That's why I left it out of here.
I'm gonna keep talking about this until we get closer to a solution now.
Okay.
Because I don't wanna keep, like, we're all here to talk about it, so. If it's, so your concern is enforcing that bike length because.
Yeah, it'd be difficult to enforce and then you kind of walk around with a tape measure. I mean, I will, tell me to.
But how much are like a dozen of those rolly?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like trailers come in a million lengths. Like there's ones like where you're like, okay, it's this size. I mean, in all fairness, I do feel like visibly it's not that hard to tell the difference between, but.
And in between, sorry to cut you off, in between, I mean, we have driveways that, you know, between each house. It's not like we have an acre between each house here, so you have to be respectful to your neighbor. You don't want to put your trailer in the driveway.
Right,
They have it.
I think that's been one of the issues.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yes.
Sure. You know, I think it's probably best right now, maybe if you stick to something with the type of class of vehicle, the 10,000 pound vehicle and above. Just stick with that and then adjust the ordinance as we go.
Can I make a suggestion to get to the trailers? Find a place in town that's empty from 7 PM to 7 AM that the borough has control over. I don't know if that.
The other part. If you're talking about the section of town that was the first to get lead line replacement, this has been an issue for that neighborhood where I live when it comes to snow removal, when it comes to anything that deals with on-street parking. I live next to 2 houses that have no driveways. So we have been actively looking for places on the west side to partner with for the snow removal, for everything else. I think the issue is we've talked about it a lot, but those meetings that the mayor is asking to have where we find these partners have not happened. Maybe we need to put a timeline on ourselves that like by the next meeting, we are going to at least get in touch with one of these partners. It could be the schools. The primary school is right down the hill. Their parking lot is not occupied from 7 PM to maybe 7 AM. But maybe there's a shared partnership there. I'm not sure, but it's just, this has come up multiple times about needing a shared partnership location on the west side. And we have not gotten there for snow. We are now talking about it for trailers. You know, the nearest municipal lot from over there is, it's not equitable to ask people to go to our nearest controlled lot. So that's.
I mean, the other option is you just don't allow hitched trailers on the road either, and you see what the private market has in store. And what.
No, I want us to actively try to talk to people, but I want us to put a timeline on ourselves so it actually happens, because it didn't happen between the last meeting and now.
I don't, to be honest with you, I don't think there's any room on the west side. I mean, the school, I mean, what do you do if somebody parks their trucks and trailers at the primary school and then
they don't pick them up?
Sick. And you can't
Right.
work and leave.
But we haven't asked any of the churches. So let's try it and then, but we need to have a timeline on this so it doesn't, you know, if we talk to Hillbrook and the church down on River and the other ones that have sizable lots and they say, and I think we had conversations with one of those in the past, and they say it's a no-go, then, you know, or in the meantime, some sort of outreach to the people that are on the street, we visibly see they're on the street.
Do that, you can leave a note on the, I mean, you see that, I just saw 4 of them.
Right here, you could leave it down on their vehicle and
Maybe have a public meeting like during your office hours, invite.
put it on their car and invite them to the meeting. We're considering an ordinance to prevent you from parking this vehicle here.
We'd like to talk to you about it, come to our office hours.
I like that idea. I would also like to suggest that there's a lot across from the Galleria that is empty, and I believe it's owned by Sorless. And that might be something where the borough could partner with for parking spaces in the evenings. Okay, it's off Shrewsbury Avenue, yeah.
Sure, I mean, anywhere we have a lot, I mean, maybe, you know, maybe we can talk to St. Anthony's and see. They have a good sized lot there too. But yeah, we have to jump on it, Kate, you're right.
Yeah.
So jumping on that piece, there's nothing barring us from passing this though. I mean, and then.
I was gonna
amending it.
amend number 4 to about the concern about the cars for hire.
Like that was one thing on my list.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that gets into a whole other. Like now you're penalizing people that go through the old school taxi system versus the new people who prefer, I mean. I don't like that inequity either. I mean, it's tough, man.
Plus, how do you identify
Correct.
an Uber car? Somebody's just like.
Honestly, the light thing.
The license plate?
Kate had a good point, though. It's if it's your primary family vehicle, which a lot of people use for Ubers, they should not be
shouldn't be.
inclusive. Like,
Yeah.
Well, I
Whereas
have
the
2 neighbors that own a taxi and use it as their family vehicle, frankly.
That's what.
that would be permissible here. I'm not gonna tell someone they can't put their family vehicle on the street. I mean.
Do they have
they're a
TLC
resident.
plates?
Yeah.
They do?
Oh, yeah, Star Taxi, matter.
Now we opened a can of worms.
Okay.
We're just too nice, man. Care a lot.
Just the license.
Care a lot.
Yeah, I just want people to be okay.
Now, the taxis allowed on the street now and stuff, like really vehicles?
At this moment, yeah, you have no prohibition against that.
Yeah, for the most part, during the overnight hours, they park at the train station. I don't really see that.
I've never heard complained about that.
No, there's no complaint about it,
So
so.
maybe we'll just strike number 4 until it's a problem.
Safe, is it hurting anybody? Is it, you know?
Van limousines over 4 doors or something along those ways. That way it's not a longer car that's like a trail. I don't know. I don't really care if we ban them or not. I don't think we
I
have an
think you
issue
just
here.
change number 4 to stretch limousines and leave it alone.
That would be fair.
And that,
Because if we don't have a particular problem and we just identify potential problems that we could create,
then it seems like cost benefit would just be saying no stretch limousines.
call it that.
Oh, really?
Getting it done.
Getting it done, one day at a time. Yeah, but.
By a big scale.
Oh.
So what's the procedure? Should we now say we're gonna try and have this ready for introduction at the next meeting, but in the meantime, we'll hold ourselves accountable to try and find some community partners that can offer a parking location overnight. Sound like a plan?
2 weeks.
It's 2 weeks, buddy.
2 weeks. Yeah, okay. That work for everybody? All right,
Another piece of fruit off the tree.
all right.
Thank you for all your work on this, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being so understanding that, you know.
Thank you.
All right, we have some special events. Did the Oscar say someone was coming?
Yes.
No, okay. Okay, so some special events that we're gonna be voting to approve. One is a filming request that's happening on May 17th and the 18th. Crop walk on October 20th. A youth rock and roll summer concert on July 19th. And a Flag Day celebration with the Red Bank Elks, June 14th at Riverside Garden Park. Could I have a motion to approve these special events 1 through 4?
So moved.
I have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Hi.
All right. Next up, we have our public questions and comment section. I'm going to ask if you're here speaking of something that's not directly pertaining to Red Bank, or actually if you're not a resident, I just want to give residents a chance to have their say, and then we will open up the floor to everybody. So can I have a motion to open up the floor for public comment?
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Okay. Jimmy, what you got?
Yes, Jimmy.
I'll tell that when the ladies will be in line with it. Oh, Thing I want to just keep a reminder of.
Just stay.
Oh, Jimmy Garforty, one Sunset at a Ribbon, too. You know, with these sites that's contaminated, you hear it all throughout New Jersey. And myself, being down the street from the foot of Sunset, I mean, I always say damage is good, you can't clean up. And these engineers, that's one thing you hear so many stories, oh, we can do this and that, but you can't guarantee nobody's life. But then you hear surrounding close places like in Long Branch and down past the social service building in Freehold. And it's, it's damaged, some of this that's unfixable. And I mean, nobody can't make a decision for nobody. And my thing is, just like the foot Sunset, they said maybe a near future park. But my thing is, you got a park, you got Count Basie Park. What do you need another park?
I just want to add one thing to Jim, regardless of what ends up happening down in Sunset, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, we are mandated by the state to clean the property up.
But what I'm trying to tell you, what reason I'm saying this, I said, you never see these people. My thing is, what are you doing? They hide up on the ceiling? I mean, in the closet somewhere, they don't come out here and talk to people. My thing is, for example, look at Trenton, right on one road, 3 parks that's messed up. And people live there, kids play there. Now, my thing is, your family, your wife, your kids into a place that now these places been fixed, but now they say they got another problem. So my thing is, why are you gonna try to do something and now they got another problem, but nobody don't wanna come out and talk about it? Nobody's just wipe their shoes off now, oh, I got lead problem or something like that. What I'm saying to say, and you hear people dying, like in Long Branch, that's a main example, and put down for what you call, I know you have to do something, but my thing is, if you're gonna do something, just clean it up and close it. You don't need another park. You got enough parks around here, you don't need another one. My thing is, that's like somebody dictating that you need another park. They don't live here, but you got people that live here, and I live here. And I said, let's clean it up and leave it alone, that's all. Don't let something happen again. And my thing is, for example, like daycare, how many times that's been, and my thing is, you got 10, it's like a pitcher in a baseball game. You strike out a hitter, you strike out 10 times. How many more times you want to strike out and mess somebody's life up? And I say it's really sad when you don't see. And my thing is, all you up sitting up here, how many of you ever been into Long Branch and go down there and right on the side of Second Baptist, really just check this out? Even in Freehold, it's really sad when you hear somebody, a lady in Freehold, I bought this place to have a good place for my son. Now she said, what I'm going to do? To see that hit my life, his life, and his grandchildren, you never know what's going to happen down the road. But my thing is, these people, is somewhere they are, I always say, up in the foothill, they didn't want to dictate to this. But I hope you all will keep this in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So then it's gonna be 25 Cedar Street. So it's really cool how enforcement's actually gotten a lot better. Really appreciate it. However, like we're just talking about the view. When you come down the street, you want to be able to make a left or right hand turn and actually see if a car is going to hit you. Because on my street, I almost get hit all the time. And it's because cars are parked up to corner where there's a yellow line. Now, I know there's new lines put on in some areas. I don't know if we need to maintain and update the street yellow line. Because I sent a picture, it's like, well, no, it's not up to the yellow line, even though the sign says don't park here. So what's the rule? Is it the yellow line or is it the sign? Because then there's signs on the west side that I see that are no longer readable because of just wear and tear and light. You got nice, new, beautiful signs over by, I think it was Peter's Place and Eagle by Red Bank Catholic, they were put up a few weeks ago, that are nice and they can see it clearly. So we need to make it safe. Some of the problem is enforcement and making sure that the lines are there and the signs are readable. That would solve it, some of the problems.
And I'm hoping that that new program that we're gonna have.
I'll give you the pictures today. You don't have to wait.
What's that?
Give you the pictures today. You don't have to wait.
And just to clarify, all of our street signs are brand new. They were replaced around the entire town. They're all maroon. They're all the same.
I'm talking about the no parking signs. The no signs.
Yeah, but you said a maroon sign on Peter's Place, so.
They are. They're maroon, they're little no park signs here, they're marine. I'm not talking about the name signs. They're new signs. I got pictures too, I'll show you. They're beautiful.
No, I just wanted to clarify that all the street signs in town were all replaced at the same time.
Number one. Number two, can we fix the lights outside so they go off? I came yesterday to the planning board meeting and the lights are on outside. And when I came to hand in my time sheet today at 8:35, the lights are on in the parking lot. I don't think we need lights on when the sun's up.
When the sun's up, you said?
Yeah, if the sun's up, why is there lights on?
I gotta see if it's on photo,
For you.
photos, I don't, yeah, okay.
Thank you. Anyone else have any or any residents have any other comments? Yeah, Barbara.
And 30 Pinckney Road. I went to a meeting for the County Office on Aging this morning, the Zoom. And they have some excellent programs that I think residents should know about. They will be sending out more and much more clear information very soon. I only printed out what they gave us today. And they had surveyed residents in the county, the senior citizens, asking them about needs. The number one need is transportation, Nancy, and the number two was personal assistance. So they have a new program, it's personal assistance services program, tax. And I just have a couple of flyers. I've only managed to print one in English and 5 in Spanish. No sé por qué. 5 have to. Thank you. Bring it to you.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right.
Thank you.
Sure. You should get somebody who uses their reading glasses around their house.
Thank you, Barbara.
Surprise. I'm sorry. I forgot to say one thing. I tried to fit my vote in the ballot box and it's full. I couldn't get it in there.
Oh, outside here?
Yeah. See?
Got that one?
All yours.
Yeah.
Have to run out there and check it out.
Sergeant. I feel so rushed with this 3-minute talk. I just want to acknowledge the great young people who are here tonight. They're dedicated and committed to justice. And they've come a long way and they've given up their time. And we salute them. Thank you so much. Okay, we cannot say we didn't know. After the Second World War, people said, oh, we didn't know there was a Holocaust. We didn't know anybody was killed. But right now we're seeing it in living color. So nobody can deny that it's happening. And it's so good to see that all of you councillors are so human and compassionate and concerned about people parking in the street and, you know, you want to do the right thing. And I really would love you to do the right thing and pass the resolution that we have submitted. You had a minute's silence for a gentleman who died. At this moment, there are 600,000 children in Rafah ready to be killed. Bombs are falling. People are starving. And I feel that if you pass this resolution, it'll unite the community instead of divide the community. All it asks is that there's an end to the civilian killings, the murder of civilians, that the hostages, the men, women, and children who are being held, probably in awful conditions, be released, and that food, medicine, and all supplies are given to the Gazans. I feel that so much time has been spent on the trailers, and like, time is ridiculous. I have a minute left. We're seeing a real divided nation. There are 4 bills in Congress that attack, criminalize, and demonize Palestinians and movements that support Palestinians. One is the Anti-Semitic Awareness Act, and part of the reasoning for that is whereas on October 8th, 23, a car with individuals holding Palestinian flags appeared to intentionally swerve out of its lane, nearly hitting a visibly Jewish family in Clifton, New Jersey. That's supposed to be part of the evidence. There's a second one, 6408, there's 17914, 7921, and these are all anti-Palestinians. And remember, Semitic people include Palestinians. Semitism, I'm seeing this. I'm sorry, I have ADHD and it's very hard for me to speak under pressure. To be a Semite by definition is to speak a Semitic language. And Arabs speak Semitic languages. So any of these anti-Semitic laws that are being passed locally, statewide, and nationally should include protection of the Palestinians as well. And as Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And I really would love you to have some kind of a discussion. I mean, if you can give us 3 minutes of each person giving their opinion on this resolution, at least we'd have something to go by. It's been since January. How many people have been killed? How many people are being killed right now? And we have senators who want to impose sanctions on the ICC and the ICC members, the International Criminal Court, because they want to arrest Netanyahu and officials in Israel for crimes against humanity. The word is crazy, and I think you could do the right thing and pass this resolution. Thank you.
Good evening, council. Vegan Zarabian from 185 Maple Avenue. I have a quote from Miriam Margolis, who's a British actor. And she was being interviewed, and I quote, "I have never been so ashamed of Israel as I am at this moment. To me, it seems as if Hitler has won. He's changed us, Jews, from being compassionate and caring and do unto others as you would have done them do unto you, into this vicious, genocidal, nationalistic nation pursuing and killing women and children. What we are doing, Jewish people over in Israel, is shocking, embarrassing, and wicked. And in the name of humanity, I call upon all Jews to shout, beg, scream for a ceasefire. It is not anti-Semitic to have a different opinion on the wartime actions now." Red Bank Council, I do not know your aspirations of being elected on a council. What I see in you are good people with compassion for fellow human beings. And if you ever decide to climb up the ranks of politics, I hope you will be the likes of Dennis Kucinich, Cynthia McKinney, George Galloway, Shirley Chisholm, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., Ralph Nader, etc. These people have played in politics
But compared to most politicians, to me, most politicians are greedy psychopaths. They have moral values. The people that I've mentioned, they have moral values and compassion for fellow human beings, especially people that are oppressed. The people of Gaza are in an apartheid state and being continually bombed by Zionists that are in the Israeli government. We need our voices to be heard to the federal government that the Palestinians are victims of genocide by the hands of Israeli Zionists. Please introduce and vote the resolution by Georgina Shanley for immediate and permanent ceasefire. In a previous public comment that I've made, I had mentioned Aaron Bushnell sacrificing his life by burning himself in February. I also want to mention another American, Rachel Corrie, who died by a bulldozer being run over her body back and forth on March 16, 2003, concluding. On March 16, 2003, protecting a Palestinian family's home. I cannot fathom myself giving up my body for an oppressed group of people, the Palestinians, who are living in an apartheid state. I can only speak to you to make our voices heard, to at least vote on this resolution by Georgina Shanley. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. And again, I just want to reiterate, we have a lot of folks that want to speak, so please try to stick to the 3-minute limit. We've already been here 2.5 hours. Yes, in the back, get your hand up first.
All right.
That's all right, you're not on the clock yet. Take your time and don't trip, please.
I just recently had back surgery, so I'm gonna stand, but thank you all for your time. I don't want to take too much time from it.
Lift that up if it's easier to stand up.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, just.
My name is James Davis. I'm the general manager of FC Monmouth. We are based out of 280 Route 35 in Red Bank, and we play our games at Count Basie Park. We have since 2018 now. So I just wanted to shine light on this, Mayor Portman. I thank you for the message you sent us, and I want to bring attention to it to the rest of the council. We bring thousands of people from around Monmouth County into the Red Bank area every single summer to support Red Bank businesses, to support us, and to support our community. And this year we are launching theme nights, as well as we are launching a women's team for the first time to complete level. So we're very proud of these initiatives that we've started. We're having Pride Nights, military appreciation, as well as first responder appreciation nights. And I would love to be able to find a time to speak about this at a later date, to further involve the town of Red Bank, the municipality, as well as the education systems that involve in it to further benefit the whole community. So, thank you.
And I will be at the game Wednesday in Camp Basie, if anyone wants to go.
Wednesday, 7:30.
All right, thank you.
Feel better.
I'm assuming you're not playing next week.
No, I'm just sitting on the sidelines. Thank you.
Yes.
Tell you, I'm done.
Just name and address again.
Huh?
Name and address.
Steve Fenichel, 115 Hardin. Let me tell you about Dr. Adnan Al-Bursh. This is his photograph, which I asked Orphan to pass around the council as well as the people. He was Palestinian, an orthopedic surgeon and head of the orthopedic department, Shifa Hospital. He was professor of orthopedic medicine and had a master's degree in political science. He was born in 1974, and he died April 19th, 2024. He was 50 years old and had 5 children. He was a dedicated physician who refused to abandon his patients in Gaza in spite of the grave risk to his own life. He did pay the ultimate price. To give an example of who this gentleman was, one day he performed 17 successful surgeries on wounded patients from US-Israeli bombs sparing them from amputation or death. Shortly after, stepped out to take a break. Israeli shelling struck the operations section of the hospital, killing all 17 patients and wounding Dr. Bursch. Still continued to care. His luck ran out December 2023. He was arrested by the Israeli forces alongside with 10 other workers. According to fellow prisoner Dr. Khalid, Dr. Al-Bursh was tortured mercilessly. The torture description sounded an awful lot like what was done by American soldiers to the inmates in Guantanamo. He finally succumbed to his torture 4 months later on April 19th, 2024, which was just last month. Israeli forces have killed 400 medical workers since October, arrested 310 more, and all but destroyed Gaza's healthcare system after repeated attacks against almost all the hospitals. Released detainees say Palestinian doctors in Israeli jails are treated more harshly than other prisoners, face torture and abuse. At least 10 prisoners were confirmed to have died in Israeli jails since October under these conditions, although the number of fatalities is likely much higher. Why? As a physician myself and a Jewish person, it is not hard to personalize these terrible stories. Dr. Adnan Al-Bursh had an aspiration to build a large hospital in Gaza encompassing all specialties. He screams out the importance of ending the killing of civilians and releasing the sick and weary hostages and end the starvation of men, women, and children. Terror. By passing the ceasefire resolution, you know you have done the right thing. When the three objectives of the resolution are met, it is only then that all sides can work together, repairing the terrible damage which affects Palestinians, Jews, and all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes. I want to turn things over to Deputy Mayor so I can use the restroom.
Go ahead.
Just state your name and address, please.
My name is Perry. I live on West Front Street. I would also like to implore the council to vote yes to the ceasefire proposal. I have lived in Red Bank for most of my life. I was born here, and I am proud to say that this is my home. I love this city. I love everything we do. It's such a wonderful culture here, and I really respect everything that the city does. And when Palestine is free, because it must be and it will be, I want to be able to say that I come from a home that was on the right side of history.
Thank you.
Sure, come on up.
Just state your name and address. Thank you.
Matt Daniels, 1026 Monroe Avenue, Asbury Park. I am from Asbury Park, but I spent my childhood here in Red Bank, River Street, 200 block, actually right across the street from that church you were talking about. And my time here was amazing. As that young person before me alluded to, this place, the schooling of this place, the community of this place was one of not only acceptance, but diversity for sexes, creeds of religion, and learning to accept that really came from this town. And so, shout out Ms. Sherman, shout out Mr. McLaughlin, RMP, Mr. Bellhorn. It really holds a special place in my heart, as I'm sure it does everyone here. And that, along with a few other reasons, is why we want to see, is why we want to see a ceasefire resolution out of this town. Now, I know that from people that I've talked to, that have, approached you guys, come to city council meetings for this, that we have thought that maybe this was a little too removed from us, or maybe it didn't affect us here enough to actually, vote on it or to talk about it. And to that, I say that there are a number of people that I know that have been personally affected here, that have family over in Palestine, that are from Palestine, that are here, that are in Red Bank, that are in Asbury Park. I know that taxes, while any taxes that would be going over to Israel will probably be federal, that button that is pushed, and that decision that is made, well, politics starts at a local level and it goes up from a local level. And when, you guys do something or say something, or, people in Asbury Park do something or say something, and it starts a ripple effect that is heard. And what I'd like to last state is that this ceasefire resolution, and many of the ceasefire resolutions that you've heard, ask for a release of hostages, ask for a ceasefire. And if we can't find unity on that, if someone is divisive or, divided on that, well, I don't know if that's the type of people that we want to unify. We want everyone to love, and we want everyone to live and see peace. And so that's all I have to say.
Appreciate it, thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
My name is River Torres, from 80 Center Street in Hazlet. I just wanted to say that I've been hanging out in Red Bank for a very long time. I've been here since I was old enough to take the bus here. My cousins went to RBC. I performed at the council. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I performed at Thank you. I'm nervous. I performed there a few times as a kid. And something I know for a fact is that young people are starting to come to the polls. Young people are starting to care about local elections. Your vote matters, maybe in the long run, but definitely in the short run when it comes to us voting for you. I'm very involved in local politics. I know that people my age and younger are starting to really care about who is in our local council. And a vote for Palestine is a vote for you. We are the future, and we want the best for our people. We really hope that you reflect those decisions. I also feel like it's important to say that I hold no personal stake in this. I'm not Muslim, I'm not Palestinian. I was raised Christian, and even though Jesus himself was Palestinian, I believe that this reflects on all of us and this affects all of us. The only reason this building is standing, the only reason my limbs are intact, the only reason my niece and nephew who are 4 and 6 are alive and not burning in a car like poor Hind, who I'm sure we all heard of, is because we happen to have been born outside of Palestine. We happen to have not been marked with a target on our backs for our religion, for the things that we wear in our hair, for the symbols that we have on our chest. I work in Hazlet, and there is a gang in Hazlet. They are called the Pagans. They have come into places I've worked at. They've harassed bartenders that I've worked with. But the state of New Jersey is not being bombed because of the Pagans. I think we all need to take a moment and think about that. This is not about terrorism. This is about human rights. So please pass the ceasefire resolution. Let the world know that Red Bank cares about this. We may seem like a small voice, but we're not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me? Hi. My name is Sarah. I'm from Genesee as well, officially in Homedale, New Jersey. So I'd also like to join a few people that were urging our council members to call for a ceasefire. So I actually was in a last meeting a couple weeks ago, and I actually really liked how Mayor Portman, you were talking about how there's like this really good culture at Red Bank. You kind of mentioned how a lot of people come to Red Bank because it's a successful place that's thriving with lots of things to do. And as someone that lives in Homedale and spends a lot of their summers here at Red Bank, I couldn't agree more with that. There are many theaters, there are many parks, and it's just such a very happy, positive environment. But how can we say that about ourselves if we don't stand with the side of humanity? Which is why I urge for you to support the ceasefire resolution. I'm personally a teacher in Hazlet, and I have students coming up to me telling me, hey, like Ms. F, I couldn't get my assignment done yesterday because I have family in Gaza right now and I can't reach out to them, and I'm personally hurting. And as an educator for social justice, I am torn between, do I want these kids to do their work and benefit from it so that they can go to college and have a life, or should I be understanding and let them not do their work because they're going through so much right now, so much pain, so much grief. If I were to read something from the mission statement at Red Bank, it says our vision statement holds Red Bank for our educators accountable. We believe our children should dream big. We will inspire, we will challenge, and it also projects a positive outcome for our children so they will achieve. And in only for us to expect our children to achieve, we have to let them know the side of humanity. We have to be in support of the side of humanity, which is inside of those that are suffering in Gaza, those that are suffering in Rafah. So you need to be a role model to these children because these children are looking up to you. In order for them to achieve, they have to be in a town that supports humanity, that supports unity, and supports human life. So lastly, I'd just like to end with, please be on the right side on history, support townships that have also called for a ceasefire, which includes Patterson, Prospect Park, Union City, North Bergen, and Newark. And I really hope, as a resident of Monmouth County, New Jersey, I can see Red Bank as a leader of this movement in Monmouth County so that other townships can really see and really benefit from Red Bank and kind of enact that into like their own townships as well. Thank you so much. I yield my time.
Thank you. Zoom to.
Hello.
Yes,
Hi. Can you can hear me?
we can hear you.
Okay. My name is Gabriella Green. I'm from Howell. I've been coming to these meetings as much as I can. And I implore you to call for a ceasefire resolution. I know some of you call yourselves environmental activists. So I have some information about how this is actually affecting the environment, and I would appreciate if you would listen to this. February shows that daily sea temperatures were the hottest month on record ever this February, possibly caused by 5 months at the time of the data of ongoing genocide. USA and Israel had dropped the equivalent of 2 Hiroshimas on Gaza in February. It has now been 7 months since October 7th. More and more people are, oh shoot, I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry, it's okay.
Keep going.
Best you can.
We know it's intimidating. I used to be somebody who used to comment before, so I understand.
I'm sorry. My dog likes to bark. I didn't think she was gonna do that.
Turn your mic off when it happens. Yeah.
Can you still hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, I lost what I was saying too. My dog does not appreciate me talking on the phone. Okay, so not only has this affected the global environment, but there have been documented attacks on at least 445 educational facilities, 178 press headquarters, 203 Gaza heritage sites, 654 places of worship, 221 ambulances, and 155 hospitals and clinics. There are currently only 12 partially functioning hospitals in the whole of Gaza, 5 in the north and 7 in the south. 80% of primary healthcare centers are non-functional. It could take over 80 years to rebuild all of the homes that Israel has destroyed in Gaza. Northern Gaza is currently in a full-blown famine as Israel continues to impede aid distribution. Nearly all of the 600,000 children in Rafah, where they just started bombing on Sunday during the Met Gala, are injured, sick, malnourished, traumatized, or living with disabilities. Hundreds of bodies were also discovered in mass graves at hospitals Israel had recently raided in Gaza. In flagrant violation of international law, Israel has turned schools in Gaza into military bases. Schools are meant to educate children and prepare them for the rest of their lives. They're now either completely decimated or being used to aid the people killing them and their families. And as people before me were saying, politics starts at local levels. This really is a red bag issue. This is affecting so many people's mental and physical well-being right now, having to witness all of these atrocities happening in the world. I truly implore you to reconsider your stance and to vote for a ceasefire resolution. It should not be dividing. It should be unifying in the fact that it calls for the release of hostages and it calls for an end to the atrocities happening on all of the people in Gaza, women, children, men, and elderly alike, and animals too. Thank you.
Someone else online.
Hello, council. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you for your patience. I know you've been on there a while.
Thank you. It's all good. I was actually hoping to speak on this issue as well. I'm curious how we haven't come to the realization.
Sorry, Robert, just gotta say your name and address.
Oh, no worry. Robert Bowers, and I live at 131 Hudson Avenue here in Red Bank.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
Awesome. So I am curious how we have not come to the realization that there is no political solution. You can vote harder, Goy. The more you vote, nothing will change. Your tax money will still go to Israel. Your tax money is still going to go and help the Israelis slaughter Palestinian children. You can vote for Joe Biden. You can vote for Donald Trump. It doesn't matter. It won't change. Now, when you look at Joe Biden's cabinet and you see that 78% of his members that make up his cabinet are Jewish, I see a very strict, I see a correlation there. And let's just name some of them. Janet Yellen, the Secretary of the Treasury, Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security, Avril Haines, Director of National Intelligence, Ron Klain, the White House Chief of Staff, Four-Star Admiral Rachel Levine, who also happens to be transgender, Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Pritzker, who also happens to be transgender, David Cohen, the Director of the CIA, Eric Lander, Office of Science and Technology Policy, Victoria Nuland, Secretary for Political Affairs, Wendy Sherman, the Deputy Secretary of State, and finally, Anthony Blinken, Secretary of the State. Now, I feel that that demonstrates that, you know, this isn't really the United States of America. This is the United States of Israel. That's what we are, essentially. When 78% of your cabinet is of a 2% minority, that doesn't seem very equal. I mean, we like to preach equality, diversity. It's not diverse to have such a minority group control such a large stake in one aspect of our policy. Now, you look at our news, you see that TikTok is being banned. And the reason for that, I mean, they may not want to admit it, but it is because TikTok is great at exposing what is going on in Gaza. Okay, that is part of the reason why it's getting banned. They want to limit your First Amendment right. Okay, now you look at the news. I don't see any news really critical of Israel, and that is because 96% of the media organizations are owned by 6 Jewish-owned companies. Okay, at that point, you really don't have an unbiased media, do you? You have an Israeli, you know, control on the media. I see a lot of individuals claim others are fascists.
If you can hear that beeping, but your 3 minutes is up.
Oh, finish what you're saying?
But you go ahead, you can finish your last statement there.
Yeah. Hail Hitler, white power, nigger, 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 nigger.
I knew that was coming.
Right, you're done.
Okay. Another online? You wanna stay with online?
Not really.
Out of curiosity, like, what's our right to like ban someone like that?
You shut them down when they started doing that.
I'm just curious.
You mean if he comes back?
Yeah, I mean, I'm for, look, he says that we have an assault on the First Amendment. I stand for no restrictions on public comment. People need to come whether I agree or not. That's how we protect free speech. But obviously there are lines and we just watched it. So I guess it's just, we cut him down the best we can. He was going for a while there. Trust me, no one here is judged by what Robert said.
Correct.
Let's go ahead, Jim. Another one online.
Molly Conjure needs to unmute herself.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Phenomenal. My name is Molly Conger. My goodness. I know that a lot of people here have been speaking about the whole thing with Gaza, and I think that is very important for us to remember that Gaza, this whole thing is not new. Okay, this all started in the 40s before Israel was even a state. And the only difference between now and then is the presence of the internet. I would love to sit here and virtue signal and tell people how they need to fight wars. I've never fought in a war, and I'm not going to say what's right and what's wrong. I will say that it is awful what we're seeing come out of this. My heart breaks every time I see a child that is hurt over there. But what's happening isn't October. It's not even something that's new to this year. Children have, as you see in lots of these videos, children have their limbs amputated without any sort of anesthesia for decades over there. And I think that every time we attempt to take a stand, we're just kind of prolonging it. I know that sounds awful, but sometimes getting in the middle of a fight is just making it take longer. One side needs to win, and then it needs to be over. Allowing them to do what they need to do is just part of life. I think that it's not our place to step in any way, shape, or form. We have so many things happening in our own state. My neighbor, her house was broken into. And I would love for people like her to have people care that we have issues here. But for some reason, we have loads of people willing to step up and talk about something that's across the sea and have our city council virtue signal, because I'm sorry, I find you important. I'm sure your families find you important. But do you really think that you guys saying we don't support this and people over there just be like, my goodness, let me put down my gun? I think it's silly. I also think we're conflating an issue and essentially making it one giant holy war. Because a lot of the times when we talk about this, it's not about Israel, it's about the Jewish population. When I speak about this in public, I'm called anti-Semitic because I bring up the people. And I find that crazy to say that murdering babies is wrong. I'm anti-Semitic. What I find interesting is that in 2024, we're fighting this holy war, but for some reason,
Well, I'm
when
sorry,
I do,
the 3-minute timer went off for your comments. Can you just, I got a little flustered with the last guy. Can you just state your name and address again for the record?
oh yeah, I'm so sorry. My name is Molly Cogner, and I live at 118 Manor Drive right here in town.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you, Molly, for your comments. Another one behind you. Or. Yeah, okay.
And Mike.
Online, there we go.
No, there's more.
There's more.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is Barry Gall. I live on Monmouth Street here in Red Bank. I have a different topic. I just want to make sure this isn't tied to an agenda item, correct? This is
Yeah, public comments on anything.
okay, great. So recently I've been made aware of a very troubling practice, and I would really appreciate it if you all could look into it. And I would like an ordinance banning it in our city. It is called Metsitsa Bapay, METZITZAHB''Peh. You can go to nyc.gov and look up oral suctioning and oral circumcision. What happens in synagogues all across the nation and globe is that when an 8-day-old Jewish boy is born, the rabbi circumcises him and then proceeds to place his mouth on the wound and suck the blood. Now, I feel like if anybody else in the country performed that act, they would rightfully be arrested and hauled off to jail for child molestation. I can't believe that we live in a time, and I'm like flabbergasted as to how that's even permitted. So I would really appreciate if you guys would look into this.
Mayor, can we cut this gentleman off, please?
Oh, you're gonna cut me off, nigger? Fuck you, fag.
All right, you're done.
Yeah, clearly.
I'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right.
Council.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're in a tricky spot. I mean, it's the right to public comment. You know,
At the same time,
at the same time, we have an attorney here and we look to his guidance as to,
They're being very creative, I have to tell you.
he said, yes, they're being very creative, so, you know.
All right, let's try another one.
Hold on tight, everybody in the room. I know that this is very uncomfortable and a little traumatic for all of you as well. I know that this is not your intention. And movements are messy. And I see people, a lot of people here with very good intentions. Okay? You're welcome.
Hello,
Yes,
hello, can you hear me?
yes.
Okay, Chad Bastewell, 41 Elm Place here in town. Yeah, I hear you kvetching about whether to let us speak or not, but I mean, we're dealing with very serious and troubling subject matter here, and we have the right to speak. This is America. This is not Israel or other countries that are, you know, enough said. So regarding the ceasefire, I mean, a ceasefire is certainly a good start, but it certainly doesn't go nearly far enough. Anyone who has studied history that hasn't been revisioned by Jews knows that Jews have been murdering Palestinians since 1947. They terrorize them, steal their land, chop down their olive trees, poison their water, debase their money, rape their children, broadcast porn in Gaza over the monopolized media. Since October of last year, the Jews have embarked on a bloodlust frenzy not seen since Henryk Yagoda went nuts in Russia and brutally murdered 10 million white Christians. And the fact that you've never heard of him is exactly why Jews should not have total control of the media. Dresden, why isn't the horrific bombing?
Racism to be absolutely galling. I'm exhausted by this. You and your friends can go meet wherever you want to in whatever dark basement you want to, but we've had enough. We get to cut people off, and you're reflecting poorly on decent people who are in this room to express their genuine concerns. And whoever else is online, feel free, go back to whatever basement you're hanging out in collectively and share those thoughts freely. But we're going to protect the First Amendment. I'm exhausted by this, but I just want to acknowledge that this is not reflective of the decent residents and people who are locally here. Whether we agree or disagree, they are decent people, and that's not reflective of them.
Just two things.
I'd like to recommend that we
Continue public comment as we acknowledge that Zoom can be challenging,
Yes.
but that we continue public comment for those that are in the room and leave it at that for tonight.
Yeah.
We've identified that through our attorney Greg here, that this is a group that does this. Yeah.
Okay.
Uses these names that are being used.
The same names.
They're not creative.
All over the country.
All over
Yeah.
the country, and this is a concerted effort.
They just did it in Utah last week.
So for this evening, they've ruined the online public comment option. And we will remain with the public comment in the room and carry out the rest of the meeting. If you take that recommendation.
Sounds great. Thank you.
It's a shame because we love having a Zoom option to open it up to people that can't make the meetings in person, so.
Oh, yes, I did see a hand go up in the back there, yeah.
And just for anybody that is listening online that wanted to comment tonight and you're not part of this concerted effort, I apologize. You can send me an email. I'll be sure to get back to any concerns you have.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for the quick work.
Thank you.
But they weren't hard to find online.
Sorry, go ahead.
Good evening, I'm Theo Watton. I live in Fairhaven, New Jersey. I was born in Red Bank, spent all my time here. It's my second home. I would also like to call on Red Bank to pass a ceasefire resolution on the genocide in Palestine. And I appreciate you for recognizing that people like this do not stand for us and what our message is. In the past, the council has said they don't want to get involved in international affairs. I ask why. Your voice matters, and passing a ceasefire resolution is important because it signals to other communities that we stand with Palestinians against genocide. It sets the precedent to pass laws protecting these victims. Someone mentioned that politics start at the local level, and I want you all to sit with that, think about that. Laws proposed across the country and in New Jersey are saying that being anti-Zionist is anti-Semitic. And maybe that is why you hold back on making a statement. But it is not anti-Semitic to call it genocide. It is, however, anti-Semitic to claim that all Jewish people support the murder now of over 30,000 innocent people. There are so many Jewish people organizing pro-Palestine movements, and they're being silenced by Zionists, and that is anti-Semitism. History will not look kindly on our country for the way our government simultaneously funded and ignored this genocide. But people are speaking out, and Palestine will be free, and we will not rest until it is. My question to you all then is, will Red Bank stand on the side of justice, the side that recognizes the value of life of each and every person in Palestine? Or will the city be silent and complicit? And lastly, I just wanted to say, my father worked in the South Tower and he was murdered in 9/11. And I'm sure you all remember the US's response to that. I say this because, not to make it about me, but I got no peace from the war on terrorism, the US's response to 9/11, and I believe that murdering innocent people will not bring peace to any of us. What does bring peace is direct communication, and that's what we need here. We need to talk about how the US is funding genocide. I want Red Bank to recognize the death of Palestinians, just like they recognize and remember the death of my father. So thank you for letting me speak. I really appreciate it, and I hope you'll think about what I said. Free Palestine.
Thank you. Anyone else have comments? Yes.
Hi, my name's Scotty Byer. I actually am not from around here. I came from Bay Head. I took the train here. Can't wait to walk home in the rain. And I do consider myself, though, to be kind of an honorary Monmouth County resident because I grew up at my grandmother's house in Spring Lake. I have 2 jobs currently, both are in Monmouth County, and I attended Monmouth University and graduated from there in 2022. When I was writing my thesis in 2021, there was no greater issue I could think of at the time than the multiple different crises that were already happening in Gaza. What I settled on was their clean water crisis, which is a man-made crisis caused by multiple different reasons. There was the overtapping of aqueducts, natural aqueducts, aquifers rather, underneath Palestinian territory. There was constant bombing of their sewer system, which was leaking into the ocean and into other freshwater sources. And also the effects of waterborne diseases, especially in children. The #1 cause of death was, in Gaza, waterborne diseases for children from newborns to 12 years old at the time, according to Amnesty International. And it seemed to be a problem that was constantly overlooked. And when I started writing this thesis and handed it into my professors for them to review, they were astounded. They had no idea that any of it was happening. I was happy that I was opening their eyes to these issues, but I was also really frustrated because these are some of the most educated people I've ever met.
you know, they're art professors, but they're like world-renowned designers. There was me reviewing my my thesis, the board of the entire art department, who's a history professor, who did not know that things were happening to this extent. And that is when I bought my first keffiyeh and started wearing it around campus. And I was also at Monmouth University, the vice president of the LGBTQ Pride Club for 2 years. And I started wearing it to those meetings, not thinking that anyone would even recognize it. And immediately a member of the club introduced themselves to me at an outdoor meeting and was like, I didn't know that any people who don't have a direct tie to Palestine would wear something like that out in public. And it's shocking to me because some of the most insane things that Israel, their government has been able to convince people is that all Palestinians would kill gay and transgender people for even existing on their land. And the first person that I met at my university who had family in the West Bank was in the queer Pride Club meeting. And so the pink washing is extremely frustrating to me as well. But it was clear to me at that point that there could be a community in Monmouth County, not just at the university, but in the county itself, of people who are empathetic to the cause and can see Gazans and Palestinians and everyone just for more than just what political propaganda tells us that they are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take the train up and work like all week.
Yeah, I work in med school in Spring Lake, so I take the train every day.
Thank you for coming.
Anyone else? No? All right. Last chance. Can I have a motion to close the, oh, go ahead. All right, there he.
Give 3 minutes. Everyone else, take your time.
Hello.
Hi, everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name's Alex Thompson. I'm actually a neighbor as well. I live at 95 Jackson Street over in Fairhaven. I've, like others have said, I've been coming to Red Bank for all my life. I mean, I'm almost 26, and so I basically 26 years I've been either coming to Red Bank or at least driving through it in some capacity or another. And yeah, I also wanted to speak on the ceasefire resolution and how important it is to have that pass. I feel it's an absolute tragedy, and it's certainly as an American, it's disgusting to see what Israel has been doing. It's a shame that I mean, as we saw before, people like that are trying to like, you know, co-opt it and try and like, you know, say these awful things. And it's just terrible. It's especially terrible because, I mean, this was something I was had never been made aware of, something that I only learned in the past few months, is that yes, Israel does claim to represent all Jewish people and all around the world. But one of the big parties that they funded in, I believe it was the 70s, early 80s, in Argentina, there was what was called the Dirty War. And it was where the government, which was a fascist government at the time, hunted down, and they called them los desaparecidos. They were people who were disappeared because they disagreed with what the government was doing. Jews in Argentina make up, I believe it's 1% of the population, or at least at the time, they made up 1% of the population, yet they were a disproportionate 10% of people who were disappeared. And among other entities that provided the junta with weapons, one of them was Israel. So it was very shocking to me to see a country that claims to support Jews worldwide then turn around and give weapons to people who are oppressing Jews, even though, you know, sure, they may not agree on what they're saying, but it just seems very odd. It's just awful to see what's been going on. It tears me up personally. I have lots of nights trouble sleeping, just trying to, you know, just cope with it all, trying to deal with what's been going on. And it certainly would be both heartening, not only for me and for everyone here, but also just maybe people who haven't been, you know, coming to these kinds of meetings, for them to hear, oh, a local town like Red Bank is, you know, supporting a ceasefire, and they really care about, you know, not just the community here, but also the communities that, you know, around the world, and also communities that maybe one day in the future could be, built here. If Red Bank gets, bigger, or, we need to build more housing, whatever, for new residents, it would be great to be able to say, hey, we're an accepting community of all, races and nationalities, but that was it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. One more last chance. Can I have a motion to close the public comments?
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Mayor and council comments. Christina, what do you got?
No report this evening.
Okay. Counselor?
I got a couple things. First, I'm not gonna apologize for the content of my rebuke, but maybe the tone of it, only because we're in chambers, but at the same time, none of that has a place here, and no one on this dais supports that nonsense. And I don't know how else politely to state it, but I don't know if anyone else here still is pissed off as I am, and excuse my language, but I'm pretty pissed off. But this council stands against racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, anything that comes that makes someone feel the other, we stand against, and that kind of crap. I'm glad that we had a moment that we could actually just say it as clearly and simply as that, and I'm sorry. I had some comments, a couple, but I wanted to acknowledge, it's just a different moment for me now all of a sudden, but Girl Scout Troop 6065.
Let's go.
Has anyone been to the White Street parking lot?
Yes.
Yeah, the corner at the White Street parking lot, like they turned it into like a fairy village. It's gorgeous. It's so cute. It made my walk down White Street so like limitedly magical for a moment in Red Bank, and that's part of why I love this town and why, now I'm feeling better just thinking about them and about that. And so thank you to the Girl Scouts. Saturday, we got the first ever Red Bank record riot coming to town on Mechanic Street, and I picked out, I'm gonna be down there having unofficial office hours at the Hook and Ladder. I picked out some special records for each of my council mates. If you know how cool she is. The best emo record of the 90s, Copper's Drag Queen. For Nancy, because Nancy just is smooth. I got Toots and the Maytals coming. For Ben, because Ben and his wife had a sneaky cool record collection. I got Alice Coltrane's Universal Consciousness.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
For my lovely friend Laura, she reminds me of my lovely friend Sharon Jones, who I miss dearly. So we're bringing some Sharon Jones. For Kate, we're gonna go radical. We got Against Me's transgender dysphoria blues, because we gotta remember to protect trans youth.
Do I get to bring that home? Is that what you're saying?
These are from my. That's because the mayor could have been enigma. I went with Herbie Hancock's Headhunters because.
That's a good one.
A little funky, a little bit out there. But if you come on down, anyone here who wants to come on down, I'll gladly have a conversation with you one-on-one on Saturday as well. I'll be at the Hook and Ladder. 10 to 5 is the record riot. I have 2 crates of records. You can pick something out. We'll spin a record. We'll have a nice civil conversation, and we'll continue to talk about how that shit doesn't represent us. Excuse my language.
By the way, my 28-year-old, will be 29 this year, took her first steps at a Herbie Hancock concert in Washington Square Park. So well done, sir.
Well done.
All right.
What kind of
Nancy.
governing body is this?
Well, after that.
Bring records?
No, I have no records. I do have Byron Lee and the Dragoneers at home somewhere. So, I mean, if that counts, and nobody really knows that. And there's a picture of them on a BOAC plane. Now that's real throwback because nobody knows what BOAC is. So British something air carrier, whatever. Anyway, back to Shade Tree, nothing to report. They're happy that the MS4 ordinance supporting tree removal and replacement is on its way. From the EC, well, I want to talk about the Sustainable Jersey Summit that was held last Friday. 8 people from the, oh, that was fast. 8 people from the borough attended the summit, which is really outstanding. That shows representation that the borough has for sustainability. Sustainable Jersey is a group that provides astounding service with plans and technical assistance to municipalities to encourage us to operate more efficiently, address issues such as diversity and inclusion, environmental justice and such. So, you know, we're really proud of the work they did. One of the sessions was about mayors discussing sustainability, and we had the pleasure of the Red Bank mayor giving a presentation of what is done in Red Bank, and was very proud of his work and his presentation. I want to thank the members of the boards, committees, and commissions for completing the diversity survey, which is something that we're working on in Sustainable Jersey. That diversity profile will help the borough develop strategic actions to make sure that we have good representation on our boards and commissions. The Office of Planning Advocacy has requested Red Bank do their municipal assessment. The Green Team has been selected as one of the outreach groups in order to do that, and they're in the process of doing that. One of the benefits of working with the Office of Planning Advocacy is to get a plan endorsement. And this provides, upon receiving this, state agencies will provide benefits to the municipality, assisting in implementing the plan. So that's great. It makes us better for grants, to receive grants and assistance to become better than we are. Council hours are still available, Wednesdays 10 to 12 at the senior center, Wednesdays 5:45 to 7:45, but only by appointment. So you'd reach out to a clerk and it gets on the calendar. Also wanted to share that the senior center did have somebody in April from the Department of Aging to discuss programs that are available. I would recommend that people over the age of 60 can check out the senior center. It's a really lovely place, and they do have a lot of good programs going on. That's all I have for now. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councilman Forrest.
Just want to thank you all for coming tonight. I don't necessarily want to encourage you, of course, to come every night. But I do appreciate your exercising your First Amendment rights, and I do listen, even though I'm not making you happy by proposing a resolution or something tonight. I've already covered that topic, and I'm not going to repeat it. It's late at night. I did want to also say that I had a health challenge this week, as all of you know, and I just wanted to acknowledge that I'm so grateful that we have such a nice hospital in town. You know, of course, when you're there, you really appreciate the many Red Bank residents and non-residents who work there. It's great to just be able to get there in 5 minutes to an emergency room, and even though the hospital was very busy, to see that staff provide loving and determined care for many people, even though there was screaming and other kinds of nonsense going on at the emergency room at late at night, as well as in the Riverview. It's an amazing and important asset to Red Bank. I also wanted to appreciate the workshop meeting we had tonight. I actually like that we have a kind of policy discussion. I didn't say much, but I was listening. You know, I'm struggling a little bit with the balance between encouraging all of us who have jobs. I use my car for my work. And yeah, I think I said at the previous meeting a couple meetings ago, when I said we should look at this ordinance, you know, there's going to be, let's say, inconsiderate, you know, people putting giant trucks or vehicles too close to. We need to write an ordinance that's considerate of everyone and fair. I mean, some of our neighborhoods are very crowded parking situations, and I don't mind that I have a pickup truck in front of my house, but it can be, you know, obviously there is a point where it's absurd. And so I know it's a tricky thing to navigate, and I appreciate all the effort that everyone's putting into it, and thank you for that. I've decided to skip the 14 Parks and Rec announcements I was going to share with everybody tonight due to the late hour. And I want to thank you also I also wanted to tell everybody to know that I'm not getting my email at the moment. So if you send me an email, I probably haven't read it and haven't seen it. Hopefully that technical challenge will be resolved in the next 2 or 3 days. Thank you very much for your patience and time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Laura.
I just want to give a short report from the library. So everyone knows the Red Bank Library's elevator has been broken for a very long time. Friday, May 10th, the elevator is going to be put in, so the library will be closed on Friday.
Wow, that's big news.
And they anticipate reopening at 10 a.m. on May 11th, the next day. So hopefully that will go their way because the lady was telling me her whole office is like loaded with stuff, but they had to move everything out. The library will remain open as much as possible throughout the installation of the new elevator. But as always, construction projects tend to throw some curveballs, so please keep an eye on the library's calendar, website, and social media for any additional cancellations. It's right across the top that they're gonna be closed. First Atlantic Federal Credit Union will be there on March 14th at 6:30 p.m. to learn how to boost your credit score. Workshop kits will be in English and Spanish. They canceled the AED donation event because Tim Hogan and Sheila couldn't come from Riverview. So they're gonna reschedule that, and Allison Ciro from Hackensack Meridian will be attending in their place. Canopy is now available at Red Bank Public Library. I think I brought this up last time. So you can get a collection of award-winning films and documentary and educational videos there. And the summer reading kickoff starts June 15th. Welcomed adults, teens and children to participate in numerous activities through the summer. I also wanted to recognize that this is Nurses Week this week.
We love nurses.
Yeah, yes.
I literally love nurses.
I know you do. His wife's a nurse. I want to thank Tim McLoone and all the restaurants that him and his partners had. They had a 15% off for all nurses. And I did go there tonight for dinner and showed him my nursing license and I got my 15% off. So thank you. That was very nice of him when I recognized nurses. And thank you from the Animal Welfare Committee for voting our 2024-19 poultry fowl. I'm very happy about that. We have our next meeting next Tuesday. And we'll be in front of Fins and Feathers this Saturday collecting food for dogs and cats for lunch break. So if anybody wants to stop by.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. David Cassidy was defending the universe in that moment, but we participated in a really great drill on Sunday. It was Red Bank Fire Department, Little Silver Fire Department, and Fairhaven Fire Department. There's a building that is slated to be demoed in town, so we had the opportunity to drill in it. We got to do forcible entry. We got to saw the roof switches. He's a hook and ladder company. I'm a hose company, so it's pretty rare that I get to saw a roof, but I got to on Sunday. And it was just a great day. It was great to see everybody working together. I got to work with a different house than the house I'm a part of for part of the day. So that was wonderful. Broadwalk is going to be returning Monday after Mother's Day, which is when we close Broad Street to pedestrian only, or you want to say open to pedestrian only, control language. So really looking forward to that. There's also going to be a market. It's Fresh Market. It's Asbury Park has a Fresh Market. Bellworks has a Fresh Market. We're going to have a Fresh Market every Thursday night in the Broadwalk from 5 to 9. So that's just gonna, bump it up even more. The farmers market starts on Mother's Day, which is just, fantastic. And then, I just wanted to say a brief remark about Danny Murphy, who we mentioned earlier, who passed away. Danny owned a restaurant in this town since 1969. He only sold it a couple of years ago. And, when he started out, he was Italian only. He learned how to start making pizza at Brothers originally with his mom, and then he opened his own place. He pivoted with the times. Like he started out as just Italian, and then before anybody else had really started doing the bistro thing, where it's like, we're gonna do burgers, we're gonna do sushi, Danny was doing that. There was development done all around him, kind of like the movie Up. If you go and see that building in town, it's built all around his building, and then his building is there. And that really spoke to his character, the type of person, that he was. He was incredibly supportive of me, of Billy, of everybody up here. And that was unique for Danny, to be honest. People were surprised when he would be at our fundraisers. They were like, Danny came out to see you. And that was always a really big source of pride for me, that I was able to gain him as a friend and that he knew I had the best interest for the businesses and the borough in mind. And I had the good fortune of seeing him just a week ago. And, you know, he was sorting out his stuff and he was still kind of laughing about that he was gonna die. And he was figuring out his last things and he was still like keeping such a good spirit about it. And I learned a lot from that. Then another great person died, Steve Albini, Shellac and Big Black and all that other great music. So I have to have a moment of silence for my record writer or something.
Bring down some Big Black and Jesus
Yeah,
Lizard.
yeah, bring down some Big Black. All right. And that's my full report. Thank you.
Two things coming up on May 18th. I have, as part of my mayor's wellness campaign, there's a smoothie stroll and bike with the mayor event. Some streets will be closed off and we'll be biking around town. And it's also the Yappy Hour on the Broad Walk on the 18th from 12 to 4. People will be bringing their dogs out. I checked, I don't have a time conflict, otherwise I might have to blow off my own event to go to Yappy Hour, but I think I'm gonna be able to get to both of them. That's all I got for this week.
Thanks, Mayor.
Yeah, Jim, you want to give your report?
Sure, real quick. Happy to say that the community engagement coordinator position has been posted and we are currently soliciting applications and interest for that position. Also, I want to thank this governing body for working hard on the budget. Again, Tom, working hard on the budget because now, you know, it puts that in place and we can really just start moving forward on projects and hitting the ground running and making sure that we're executing the budget appropriately. So that'll be important for us this year. The Monmouth Street Streetscape project design is almost done. We're right there. The estimates are in and we're just working on the design. Count Basie Park Playground. I'm sure you've seen that the ground had to be prepared for that. There was a lot of underground electrical stuff that we had to move and concrete footings and things like that. So that playground should be installed within the next week or two to get that back and going. And I just want to turn it over to Captain Fraser real quick, because I know that you wanted to mention a couple things from the police department. And we all have our eyes on the time, of course.
Maybe not as exciting as the callers that chimed in earlier. But I'd just like to thank the mayor council for their continued support, much appreciated by me and the members of the department. I just want to keep you informed on the progress moving forward into the spring and the summer. We've hired two class two officers, which will patrol our parks and the downtown area on Broad Walk. They will start the academy on May 13th, this coming Monday. And the academy's 2 weeks. So in the meantime, we'll supplement patrol officers walking downtown during the Broad Walk. Excited for the summer, trying to bring back our bike patrol unit. We still have several bikes the last few years that we did, so we're just gonna get them outfitted. Ready to roll. Maybe ride with this one night. Obviously, continued discussions on the ordinance for the commercial vehicles. You guys are working on that. I just want to really, we had an operation last week concerning or surrounding the sales of vape cartridges and THC to underage persons. I think it went very well. We stopped into 6 establishments in the borough. 3 were not in compliant and sold to an underage person. Those people involved were summoned pending court. I think there was some backlash in the social media, but I try not to read. The only other thing I really want to bring up is the importance of the phrase "see something, say something." We also last week we had an arrest, which department received a telephone call from a woman who was near the Wawa, and she witnessed a man sitting. Actually, it was closer to the windmill. A man sitting on the wall holding what appeared to be a handgun. She immediately called the police. Our guys converged on him, and in fact, he did have a handgun in his front pocket. Thankfully, no one was hurt. the quick takedown. Those officers definitely did a tremendous job. Their training experience really overshadowed everything. But I just want to really touch on the importance of the motto, see something, say something, to keep our community safe. I think we need to just, have everybody in the community, residents, people coming into town, just, we're all here and hear this together, I think it's funny, police officers are portrayed as superheroes, but I think without the help from the public, the eyes and ears, I think we need their help to keep our community safe. But other than that, I think the department's running pretty smooth. No real issues. It's always good news. Won't keep you hurting anytime soon.
Thanks, Scott.
Can I say something? First off, great job on the specials. It's a competitive market that you got two guys in there or women. I don't know what you have, two individuals, excuse me, it's late. Going, that's huge for us. I don't know that we had them last year, actually, so.
Last year, I think we got the ball rolling late.
Yep. So excellent job, first of all. Jim, I'll give you some credit on that as well. You were making sure that we were competitive on salaries, but I just want to know, the other day I'm walking down Mechanic and who's directing traffic? The captain. When you have people, and I've always said this, if you want people to do things, you don't put that thing beneath you. And you're leading by example, and I just want to note, it was a nice conversation, but just that you're out there, you're visible, and you're doing those jobs. What has to get done on any given day, I see it, and I think everyone else is seeing it, and I don't know, these folks weren't there that day, but you don't put things beneath you, and I really appreciate that, Captain. I just wanted to make a point of saying that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and we're grateful about what you did with the vape operation. I don't want kids in our town buying things that they're not supposed to be buying, and I want to make sure that stores are following the law, and I think it's an excellent use of police resources and time, and sometimes we don't get to hear those voices on the internet. But I, for one, as a parent, am extremely grateful that you are doing that.
I mean, as a child, it would have ruined my life. I'm very grateful as a parent. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we think that's great.
Yeah, we do.
Appreciate yours.
Right, and now we just have a 2-hour exec session, guys, for better roll in there. I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Bye.